Conspiracies, government cover-ups, Earth mysteries, monster cryptids.
Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this Reply to Comments 124. This is the 124th video in which I get to reply to your comments, hence the title. Now, the reason I do these videos is because I don't have time to reply by text to the large number of comments I get on my very popular channel. But I feel obliged to reply to them because you guys take so much time to write them, and some of them are long and thought out. As giving some really intelligent feedback. Some of you are asking me direct questions or making direct criticisms. I feel obliged to reply to those. Now, you might think this is not a very good way of doing it because my reply to comments videos are not ideal. Because you think to yourself, well, I only want to reply to one comment, Ben. I'm not going to watch a 9-hour video for that. Well, you don't have to, because there will be a timestamp, pardon me, under the video I'm replying to, which will tell you to within the nearest hour when I'm going to reply to your video. See, you just skip forward to that hour if you like and just listen to put it on in the background, listen to it. It's quite easy. Just 1 hour at the most. And also, my reply to comments videos are not 9 hours anymore. They're a lot shorter because I do them more often. Although this one might be a bit longer than most of them because it's been really a very, very long time since I last did one of these videos, these recordings, these reply to comments videos. Another reason I do these videos is because I enjoy doing them, and many of you, the viewers, watch them too. You enjoy watching them. Some of you really like them, and so I know a lot of you watch them all the way through. Another reason I make these reply to comments videos is they preserve the comments just in case the videos get deleted or even my channel gets deleted, which, let's face it, is not unlikely in this day and age. And as Stefan Molyneux said, the comments themselves were a precious philosophical dialogue. Another reason to do this Repcom video, although I noticed that Molly doesn't actually do them himself as much as I do. Well, he has more comments, I suppose. So that's another reason to do them. Now, if you are watching this on YouTube, and this is actually the YouTube reply to comments video, so you may be watching this on any platform, but if you are watching this on YouTube, you can go to the show transcript function. That's Control F, and you will read the function. You can use the search. You can use search to skip to your direct answer as well. So that's another reason for doing this reply to comments videos the way I do. So I hope that explains everything. Now, I've got a bit of background. I'm just going to double check my settings because, as usual, I sometimes get I'm not getting any audio problems. Okay, but one thing that might interest you is that you may notice a slight difference to my studio area. It's not much. It's very very easy to miss it. But just look at the left shoulder of my Boris Johnson t-shirt there. You might see a little bit of an extra badge, and I'll just show you that actual badge close up. And here it is. There you go. It says Richard D. Hall is innocent, and I've got another resist if I do not comply one there as well. This was given to me by my friend Chrissy. Richard D. Hall is innocent. So I think that's a really good. So thanks very much, Chrissy. That's a really good addition to my studio area. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Brilliant. I'm all set to go. Okay, so we'll go to the YouTube comments. Now, do bear in mind, this is the YouTube version of this reply to comments video. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the only thing you will see. You will only see this video, but there is an Alt-Tech annex. Now, this is an Alt-Tech exclusive. That will only be uploaded to Alt-Tech sites. So I do recommend you go over to BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble and subscribe to me there so you can watch that video. That video will not be uploaded to YouTube, just to let you know. I think there's a very obvious reason why that is. It's I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, they're not censoring people anymore, Ben. They've stopped censoring people. YouTube are now much more libertarian. They're getting like Twitter. They're so libertarian. They're so free and open, and they will never ever commit censorship again." And I'm like, giving it, well, will they? Are we actually sure that's not going to? They might decide to change their minds again and say, yes, actually, we do want to commit censorship. Oh, also, I think there's a matter of principle, which I think was Stone Hobbit who said this. It's like going back to an abusive ex. There's no restitution or anything like that other than you get your channels back. That's it. But for how long? I mean, they're not doing that out of the goodness of their heart. So no, I'm going to keep doing these Alt-Tech exclusives, and I'm not. YouTube might change its mind, and also, like I said, it's the principle of it. I'm not uploading any of the videos that were banned from YouTube again. So that's it. Anyway, so we go to reply to comments 123, which was the beginning of the last cycle, and we have Red Ibex, who says here, first, well done, Red, as usual. Your massive collection of gold tinfoil hats is going to be added to, which is, well, I mean, it's pretty big now already, isn't it? You've got half Fort Knox in your house by now. Same video, Art's channel says Artemis 2 failed. Unfortunately, Artemis 2, yes, unfortunately, it's the launch has been delayed. It's actually been delayed twice in the last month, because originally it was going to happen. I was going to do a video about it, maybe do a live stream about it, and they actually scrubbed the launch that was going to happen, and they were going to move it. They moved it back to the following month. Now they're talking about rolling the vehicle back to the vehicle assembly building. So the rocket's now going to be taken back to the vehicle assembly building for more serious maintenance. And who knows now how long that's going to take. So it's probably not even going to launch next month now. I mean, this does happen with, unfortunately, this does happen with with space rockets. And I'm not going to sort of laugh and chuckle and gloat over this fact. I mean, I really am not. I would like to see this thing lift off. I think it would be fun. I mean, I've had so many words put in my mouth by the Apollo believers, by the NASA supporters. It's unbelievable. You know, they go, Ben, you know, I'm doing the Steve mumbling voice. Oh, Ben is going to be eating humble pie when this thing circles the moon. Well, firstly, it's not circling the moon. It's just going to flip around it and come back. I mean, this is one of the big complaints that people like Angry Astronaut are making. You know, it's not going to go into lunar orbit like Apollo 8 did, or allegedly did. It's just going to flip around and come back. Secondly, you know, if that actually happens, I'll think, cool. You know, and then Over the Moon says, you're a time traveler, to Art's channel, because saying that Art's channel can see the future. It hasn't failed yet. It has been delayed. Professor Emlyn-Jones said to Over the Moon, syringe at your eardroves. Artimol went fizz-bangy and fallopped gurgly most into the cresty wave loaders. I don't think it did. I think, unfortunately, you're referring there to, unfortunately, the Space Shuttle Challenger, which sadly did do all those things. I think most of my viewers are familiar enough with Unwinese to understand that bit. Yeah. Lab Base says planned launch windows early March and April. I think a second pre-launch test is later today. Not sure what you mean by failed in that sense. And that was 8 days ago. So this is a recent comment. I'm sorting them by newest first. But the threads, but it's actually the opening post on the thread, which tells you where on that list that these comments are made. So maybe, I mean, I don't know for sure. Last thing I heard was a few days ago, Angry Astronaut was moaning about it, saying, "Oh, there's some kind of glitch, there's some kind of problem in the hydrogen tank or something. They're going to have to roll the rocket back to the VAB and get it, and really take the bonnet off, pull the bonnet up and stuff like that." I don't know any details yet. Maybe there'll be more details as I go. People will inform me. Over the Moon said NASA completed a second wet dress rehearsal for the Artemis 2 mission on Friday the 19th and 20th. That's true, and that was 7 days ago, as it says here, which is about right. Where Professor Mumbo Jumbo got his nonsense from is anyone's guess. Mine is planet bullshit. Honestly, Over the Moon, man, Over the Moon doesn't see the funny side of Professor Emlyn-Jones. I mean, you know, it's not like skeptics have no sense of humor, because they do. There are even skeptics comedians. There's Izzy Lawrence, who is a skeptic comedian. She lives near me in Whitney, Oxfordshire. So yeah, don't you? You know, he was always complaining. Do you remember in the last video, Over the Moon was really he was doing a kind of slackser, irritation fest over Professor Emlyn-Jones. I thought, why? Come on, the lack of tolerance, the simple lack of fun among some of my viewers is astonishing. Red Ibex says here on reply to comments 1, 2, 3. My first was 7 minutes after the upload. We are all getting lazy. We see most people don't do what you do, Red Ibex. I mean, you listen, I think you're literally paused. Every spare moment you have, you sit paused with your continuously refreshing my channels to see if anything happens. You know? So your dedication is one that very few people can actually cope with. Reply to comments 1, 2, 3, and we have Professor Emlyn-Jones. Second, gravity handhold before it follops. Oh, hang on. What was that? Gravity handy hold before it follops a whale. Well done, Professor Emlyn-Jones. That means grab a handhold before it falls away. Yeah. And 40 yards says, more unwinnies, please. Love it. There you are, over the moon. 40 yards has got more of a sense of humor than you do. Why don't you just lighten up, man. Relax. Stop being so up yourself, right? Stop being so tight collar, peaked cap, top-hatted, grave, mysterious one, all right? Do what 40 yards does and do what I do and enjoy Professor Emlyn-Jones' unique contribution. And Professor Emlyn-Jones says to 40 yards, Doffley cap, gratifulbs, and prostrale it there. Deep joy. That's it. And now, same video, Professor Emlyn-Jones says here, now the epstrel, we know who that is, epstrel, yeah. Doculoads have follow-upped, with importy most peeploads caught with their pentaloads all follow-up and dangly there. I think you know what that means. Will the UK scribload new constitule and join the starps and streakers? Glory most flagly flappage. I think that means, will the UK write a new constitution and join the stars and stripes? That means the United States. Most glorious flapping flag. Well, if you mean that they will follow their example, Professor Emlyn-Jones. Well, this was 3 weeks ago you wrote this. It's actually been quite a long time since. It's been longer than I've left it longer than usual, but since the last reply to comments video. I mean, I was actually going to upload. I did tell you on the last video the next one would be the Pentach video, which I haven't actually done yet because I started looking at my channel. I thought I need to do a reply to comments first before I do that. Otherwise, it's just going to run away from me. But yeah, to give you an update, and no doubt you will know this because I actually done a video about it. So Professor Emlyn-Jones knows this because he was in the live chat. We are kind of joining the starps and street loaders quite a lot because old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, what's his name, has been arrested, and Peter Mandelson has. Hopefully there'll be more soon. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes, or yesy bold. Nothing as it seems, says here on 1, 2, 3. Sabine Hossenfelder! Sabine Hossenfelder, Gott in Himmel, is wrong. And here is the little link here, so we'll have a look at that. Let's see what he has to say.
Jameson Ginger and Lime?
I'll take a glass of that, actually. Yes.
We know that, strictly speaking, Einstein's theories are wrong because they don't cooperate with quantum physics. And today I have a paper
somewhere Michael Shrimpton is like his eyes are blazing.
That might just provide the missing link.
This is 6 minutes long. Physicists find missing link between quantum mechanics and gravity. All right. Now I'm not going to watch this whole thing. It's actually 6 minutes long, but this is what Ashton Forbes has been saying. But you say she's wrong. Okay, Sabine Hossenfelder is wrong. Here's a comment I left on her video. This is we're now back on my channel. And I'll just probably see the comment here somewhere. Mind you, she's got over 1,000 comments, so I won't be able to find it. Or I won't see it now. But she says here, "Oh, this is what excuse me. This is what nothing as it seems says." Gravity is not primary. It's a secondary effect of electric and magnetic fields in space plasma. Oh, it's interesting because Ashton Forbes has just made a video sort of saying something similar. The dielectric properties of space plasma, not space-time curvature, govern motion and acceleration. Thus, Sabine Hossenfelder, Gott in Himmel, is wrong because she assumes gravity is real and quantizable. It's an illusion created by electromagnetic forces in a dynamic, electrically active universe. Since gravity isn't a fundamental force, there's no need for a quantum particle to mediate it. Instead, Birkeland currents and plasma circuits explain large-scale structure and motion. All right. Now, I didn't understand every word of that, nothing as it seems, but I'm aware of the controversy about gravity, the fact that it hasn't been defined on the scientists have yet to understand its quantum nature, which means they don't really know how it works. There's no graviton. These things have been theorized, they've never been found. But other people, Ashton Forbes did a video which was kind of interesting because I suppose because she talks about it's electrogravitic. She talks about electrogravitic, and indeed there was definitely a link between gravity and electricity. You know, there's Thomas Townsend Brown and his work on various technologies which employ a control of gravity with large electric fields. So it's an interesting idea. I mean, I know there's been a lot of. I was reading this book by Giuliano Conforto, which is quite popular with the David Icke community because he promoted it. But it was talking about how the weak nuclear force and electricity is the same thing. She calls it the electro-weak force. Yeah. So interesting stuff there. Professor Emlyn-Jones says, "Whoa, Sabinage, Hossenkraut, the brains on the Bocas." So what? I mean, the brains and the bottom. I think Bocas is bottom, isn't it? I've never seen her bottom. But Sabina's, I don't know. She's quite funny about Sabine. She's not the kind of woman I normally go for, but I mean, she has an appeal, I think, which is rather inexplicable in my view. But there you go. I mean, I don't like German accents. I'm afraid I don't find the German accent very attractive in a woman. Although there was this German girl called Ursula that I used to fancy, but she was like quite good. She was very good looking and really nice. But she had a German accent, and I kind of overlooked that. I think, you see, attraction is kind of like a combination of things, and some things can outweigh the other, you know. But yeah, she says something a bit alluring about her, and I don't know what it is. And Rhiannon Raven says, "I love it when Nothing As It Seems talks like this." Four. Hey, Nothing. No, Rhiannon is a girl. She likes a bloke with brains. There you go. Professor Emlyn-Jones, whatever floaty boatage, deep joy. All right. Well, that's interesting. Nothing As It Seems. I'll go and look for your comment. I'll watch the rest of this video later. I think I'll have to do it later on. But yeah, it sounds like it could be. There's lots to say there. Right. Red Ibex says here on 123. Oh, we got like a timestamp. Let's have a look. It's to me. So I'll just see what he says here. Detectives with the late Marcus Allen. Over the Moon says on 122, if I may speak in plain English for a moment. Well, you do, Over the Moon. Oh, the Unwinese in the comments is getting on my tits and has made watching these videos a bore. And I addressed that. I've addressed that before, and now Red Ibex has something to say about it now, and he says here, typical skeptic. They have a problem with Unwinese, but they all claim they have no prejudice. Yeah. What's his problem? You know, which is like, what's his problem? What's his issue with that? I mean, it's really astonishing what people get wound up about. You know, I mentioned Slaxer. I don't have a go at Slaxer because I like Slaxer. But, you know, very things that I would find at worst mildly annoying infuriate him to the point where he's almost exploding with rage. People not walking fast enough in shopping queues, things like that. And, you know, I know other people like this, right? I know people and most of them couldn't tolerate my little foibles. They would say something like, I mean, this guy I went on holiday to Ireland with, he was awful. I'd just be eating my food, and he says, "Oh God, will you stop that, Ben?" And he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "You keep scraping your plate like that to eat the last of your food." And I was going, "What's wrong with that? It gets on my nerves." And I said, "I just don't want to waste any of it." "Oh, but it's so annoying." And I think to myself, well, it annoys you. Okay, this thing annoys you. But maybe does that mean it's my fault and I have to just do what you want to stop you being annoyed, and you get angry with me because I'm not doing exactly what you want to stop you feeling this way? That's very juvenile. That is, it's like a kid saying, "Stop it," you know. Over the Moon says here, Over the Moon has a right to reply. Of course, the main issue is these contributions clog up the reply to comments videos. I watched the entire video because I genuinely like to hear what others have to say. However, I find myself having to sit through a tirade of unwinnies that Ben struggles to read and often doesn't even understand. While it was funny the first time, it has now become a chore and a bore. I am not the only one who feels this way. For example, when Neil Ward complained about it, you said nothing. Talk about prejudice. Furthermore, Professor Whatever has decided to reply to every single comment I made since I voiced my complaint. To me, that is clearly spamming. Ultimately, it is Ben's channel and his choice, but he isn't going to gain viewers from these antics. In fact, views are going down, which could be partly due to this contribution. The only reason I would give up watching is to avoid having to listen to all the gobbledygook. Oh, dearie me. I bet you must be great fun to go out to a restaurant with. I bet no waitress gets a tip off you. You wouldn't get a... I bet you, if you went to a Hooters and the waitress literally got her tits out down to her belly button, you still wouldn't give her a tip, would you? You go, well, it's not good enough, I must say. I mean, this plate was 1 degree too hot. Yes, indeed. And this wine glass you've given me for my Chardonnay, well, it was about 2 degrees too warm. Oh, so David Smith says here, I'm a skeptic. I don't claim to have no prejudice. They're just disproven your assertion. Try it again. I don't claim to have no prejudice. There, I've just disproven your assertion. Try again. Well, it's true. I mean, in fact, you know, you were an honest skeptic in that sense, David Smith. But a lot of skeptics are not, and a lot of skeptics will say things like, "Well, the skepticism is not a worldview any more than the off switch is a TV channel." Well, you see, an honest skeptic will admit that they have bias, and you do, and that's good. I also have prejudice and bias. I think I make an effort to overcome that by talking to people like David Smith and Over the Moon, but and indeed going to QED and going to skeptics in the pub events and things like that. I mean, so I do make an effort to overcome that bias, but you know, I won't say it doesn't exist. I won't say it's a challenge that I've completely beaten. So thank you for your honesty, David. And David Smith says to Over the Moon, I don't mind the unwinnies. It's the other guff I tend to space out on. If you click the description, then click more, then transcript, you can use Control F and type your username to see when Ben refers to you. It's a lot faster than listening. Thank you very much, David Smith. You're absolutely right, and thank you for that information. And so they're really they're Over the Moon is your point. You can also do is search for the unwinnies words, and you can like skip over those particular bits. See what I mean? Red Ibex says to Over the Moon, you're both discriminatory. Unwinnies should be a protected characteristic. Ben, could you help leave this, please? Yes, indeed. I want to form the Unwinnies Language Society. You know, it's like the old societies they used to set up to preserve, you know, languages that were dying out. You know, and they've been quite successful with. I know well, it's not really an issue now for Welsh, but I mean, I know the Gaelic Language Society in Scotland, and there's the Cornish revival in Cornwall. In Hawaii, they have. I know this because I had to look up when I started looking into Oumuamua and its etymology. I found out there were like nursery schools, which are like Hawaiian medium schools in Hawaii. All across the United States and Canada, there were organizations for encouraging children to speak new languages. So yeah, let's have an Unwinnies medium society. So let's send your kids to the Unwinnies medium schools and things like that, so they get taught in Unwinnies. Speak Unwinnies or it'll die out. So absolutely, Red Ibex. Definitely. It's a protected characteristic, yes. That's right. The Unwinnies oppression. Yes, I have my non-Unwinnie speaking privilege. You see, and Professor Emlyn-Jones says here to Over the Moon. Oh, you shup your cakey. Were you wean it on a pickle? Prejudicial thorcus is a flagly warnage of a criminal mylode. All spiral it there. So prejudicial thought is a warning flag for a criminal mindset, is what, and spiraling to criminal mindset is what Professor says. So I am translating this for you over the moon. All right. Well, I don't think, I don't know if that's true. I'm sure, I'm not sure. I don't think Professor Emlyn-Jones, I don't think Over the Moon is actually, I don't we have to worry about Over the Moon. We don't have to worry about Over the Moon pursuing a life of delinquency, but still, you know, I just think he just needs to lighten up a bit. Next, you'll be mugging old ladles with a battly baseload, lolloping nuns, punch it between their eyeballs, and streaking on children's birthday parties with your pentaload all flashy under the raincoat, shouting, "I'm a lady!" Right, I'm not going to translate that, Professor Emlyn-Jones, because I think it's bordering on defamation. But I think it sounds a little bit like a Little Britain sketch. But until Over the Moon does anything like that, I'm good. I think we should get off his case in that respect. But that's great. I mean, I am team on my knees. I am, yes. And Red Ibex says here, all right, what's this? Here we go. I'm sorry for your loss, Ben. What's this? Who says here, strength to you, Ben. Real talk and makes a lot of sense. Keep on keeping on, bro. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks very much. I was gonna make another of these actually, because I've had another loss in the family, but I've decided to. Oh right, yeah, myself. Thanks. It's not a major. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I appreciate that, Red Ibex. I do. Yeah, it's actually, like I said, this is actually. I don't want to go into details because it's to do with my family, but my half brother contacted me and told me my biological father's died, which really doesn't mean much to me because this is a man I hardly know. And I'm not even sure. I'm starting to think maybe he's taking a piss, because I can't find any funeral notices for this guy. I mean, since I was 7 years old, I've only really met this guy about 3 or 4 times, and you know, he's not the man I call Dad. Dad is my stepfather, I suppose I could call him. I don't call this guy's not the man I call Dad, but apparently he's died. My half brother Dylan wrote to me and said, you know, Ben, this is a kid I couldn't even play with when we lived when we were kids together. I couldn't even play with him, so I don't get on with my half brother either. That's his biological son, his other biological son that he had with his second wife. But I mean, I don't want to say any more than that, because I've got a feeling that it might not even be true, and that Dylan has taken the mickey out of me, which I wouldn't put past him. But I mean, the defense then is to just not give a damn. And I mean, if his intention is to try and make me feel guilty, which I think he might well be doing for reasons I don't want to go into, but he might be doing that. Well, the best defense is not to feel guilty and just shrug my shoulders, because I don't think he was expecting me to do that. And I think the joke was that when I found out this guy was still alive, that I would somehow break down and cry and say I'm so sorry, or go up to him and said, you know, it's the usual death. Stephen Molyneux talks about, what is it, the deathbed curse of not forgiving. You know, it's this same. Well, if you don't forgive your family, you know, you'll be very sorry when they die, and you'll weep at their graveside and go, oh, it's a pity I didn't forgive you. But you know, he rightly points out, Molly rightly points out that no. If you don't have feelings for members of your family, you know, it's not just buried beneath like a surface, you know. Oh, you love them really. You don't show it, and you think you don't love them, but you do deep down. Well, no, I don't. I'm afraid. See, and this annoys me when people do this, right? They say, well, people said this about my own mother, you know, and also about my family in the Netherlands, her family, you know, however hateful and however indifferent they are. I don't know if you've ever had this. It doesn't matter how destructive they are in your life. And my mother dedicated the last decade of her life to trying to destroy mine, so she could basically take over the upbringing of my daughter. People were telling me, but no, she loves you really deep down. It's like there's this is Stefan Molyneux's analogy. It's like this. There's this little vault inside, like a safe or a vault inside you, with inside every person with a combination lock, and the real person is in there. The real person, the platonic ideal of that person, and then if only you could find a way to pick that lock, the real person will break out, and they it's you see this a lot in movies, where characters will suddenly change, and it annoys me because the character will be really horrible, and they'll go through some like road to Damascus conversion. Suddenly they'll be like really, really good. It's like Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. It's just so unrealistic, and it's an insult to our intelligence that someone could suddenly go from one to the other. And my question would be, I never actually asked this question of my dad. That is the man I call my father, who I consider my father, the man who brought me up properly, who actually really did bring me up. If okay, I'll say you say she loves me really, and she only wants to do good to me really. All right, but she is very hateful towards me, and she tries to ruin my life. Okay, well, how would if she really did hate me, and you go down into that little vault inside her, and you pick the lock and open it, and inside there is the same person inside that's outside. This platonic ideal of her is exactly the same person you see. How would her behavior be different? I shouldn't be talking around this. I might edit this bit out. But basically, I think it's taking the piss. I've looked for funeral notices for this guy. I've looked in, and I can't find them. His name's John Emlyn-Jones. It's an unusual name. It's the name I actually changed my name back to his when I was like about 25, and I don't know why the hell I did it. Because this is the name I was born with, and my name was changed, and I changed it back. I think it was because I was angry with my mum and dad over other things. I think that's why I did it, to piss them off. But anyway, that's enough of that. But thank you. He says sorry for your loss. I appreciate the gesture, Red Ibex. I really do. I appreciate your sentiment, but there's no need to be sorry. There's not, because firstly, I'm not sure he even is dead, and if he is, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to gloat and say, I'm not going to go and dance on his grave or anything like that, should he have one. But I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and move on with my life. 123, Paul Wills. R.I.P. Marcus Allen. Oh, now here's someone I am sad to lose. I feel far more about Marcus dying than my biological father. Far more. R.I.P. Marcus Allen, says Paul. I spoke to him at the 2011 Glastonbury Symposium. Was looking for a back issue of Nexus, and he has the copy I was after. Yeah. Oh, he used to turn up at all these conferences with his big stall with the little pigeonholes in, with all the Nexuses there, and there'd be Holly, his daughter, would be there with him and her husband, and other members of the family would be there. Yeah. Oh, Marcus. Yeah, he went everywhere with those pigeonholes, didn't he? Yeah, that's someone I really do miss. And then Paul Wills also says on 123, yeah, I have to agree with Lisa Fox, Ben. Your Helen Duncan video is probably your best. A great watch and very informative. Brilliant how the owners of that property let you report from the living room where Helen Duncan did her seance. Yes, that's the 301 Jewelers. Yeah, I don't know if they're still there now. But, I just wrote to them and said, look, I told them who I am, what I want to do, and they were very accommodating of me, very accommodating indeed. Over the Moon says here on 123, Artemis 2 delay. The Artemis 2 delay has nothing to do with radiation or anything White has posted online. Right, this is referring to Jarrah White's article on Owless about his concerns about the radiation risk on this particular situation. And I actually know, I know what you're going to say, but I actually do think, I'm aware that this is not the reason for this is probably not the actual reason for the delay. Over the Moon just explains here, and I agree with him. He says here, the abort was triggered by a 16% spike in liquid hydrogen leakage at the tail service mast umbilical during the wet dress rehearsal. You know it was a test and not a launch attempt. Yes, I do. It was a mechanical failure at the T-5 minute mark. identical to the plumbing issues on Artemis 1. That's true, yes. In fact, Angry Astronaut has made a video explaining that. NASA has already released the crew from quarantine because they know exactly what they need to fix to fix on the launch pad, and it's a fuel seal. That's correct, yes. Unfortunately, there have been more problems since then. This was 3 weeks ago you wrote this. And unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately, there have been some more issues since then, and it could be that they are going to have to take the rocket back to the vehicle assembly building and for some more in-depth engineering and maintenance. But we'll see how it goes. Over the Moon continues. Hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the universe, allowing it to slip through microscopic gaps and seals that will be airtight for any other gas. When chilled to minus 423 Fahrenheit for the SLS, the metal hardware contracts and creates tiny pathways that these minuscule molecules easily escape through. That's right. In fact, someone in the hospital, someone showed me this hydrogen cylinder, and I don't actually know what it was for. I don't know what they used pure hydrogen for at the hospital. But it had a very, very different valve and regulator than the normal cylinders, which are like oxygen Entinox, which is an oxygen. That's an oxygen nitrous oxide mix, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, and the various other gases we used. And there's also the calibration gases, the cylinders that are used for testing the equipment. So yeah, hydrogen is very difficult to contain. Professor Emlyn-Jones replies. Professor, you are now that's a red rag to the bull. Professor Emlyn-Jones replies, "You unwinnees to over the moon, dashy boulders, get a basey educale by grabbers. The Artimode Rocky is, so name it, to be reunity with Mrs. Artimode, all kissy cuddlode, as the Wisdy Greek Legi textbookers scrile it there in ancient past spacey tie-loads." All right. Now, I think you're referring to, I think what you're referring to here is the mythology behind Artemis. Because it is related to Apollo, because Artemis was the wife of Apollo, and she was famous for being depicted as a woman with about 800 tits. Yeah, it was a very weird thing to look at. But there was one of the 7 wonders of the world was the Temple of Artemis, which is rather like the temple, the Parthenon in Athens. It's that kind of architecture, but it was twice as big. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by an earthquake sometime over 2,000 years ago. But yeah, but Artemis is like a complement to Apollo. It's the feminine complement to Apollo. There's probably an element of feminism in that and DEI. But it's a good name. It's a good name, definitely. 123 Over the Moon says Trump self-financed his own presidential campaigns? ? In 2016, he spent $66 million, roughly 20%. In 2020 and 2024, he didn't spend a single dime of his own money. Oh, right. Is that right? Oh, in that case, like the man in the orthopedic shoes, I stand corrected. However, he contributed more to his campaign than most people do out of his own pocket, probably because his pockets are considerably bigger than most political candidates. All right. And Professor Emlyn-Jones says here, if Donnelly Trump loader declare it, then trotty trickly how and bank it there. Oh, yes. So if Donald Trump declares it, then trotting to the bank. Yes. I don't quite understand your point there, but yeah, I get what you mean. All right. And now Over the Moon says here on 123, the Concorde stopped flying in 2003 because it became a financial black hole. While it was a masterpiece of engineering, it was defeated by a combination of high costs, a changing world, and a tragic accident. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the financial element, but I knew that they had since the accident there was some problems over its suitability, and also the environmental issues. The fact that there's a noise pollution element to it. I mean, I know that people in Cornwall, because I've known some people from Cornwall. They remember that it would actually break the sound barrier sometimes when it was over the English Channel. It would be like 100 or more miles from the coastline, but they could still hear it. They could still hear the engine noise. It's like boom as it went through the sound barrier. and Over the Moon says, the reasons sound almost identical to why the Apollo program ended. Granted, apart from Apollo 1 and the near miss on Apollo 13, there were no other tragic accidents. But sooner or later, one seemed inevitable. Despite the claims of conspiracy theorists, there were at least seven instances across the 11 manned Apollo flights where a problem was considered mission threatening, meaning the crew's life or the primary landing goal was in immediate jeopardy. All right, well, Over the Moon, I didn't know about that, but I do think I can't. It seems unlikely that, or I wonder why something of that importance would be dropped because the possibility of an accident being inevitable happened. I mean, there are dangerous activities in the world. I mean, we had a skier in the Winter Olympics, which I've just been following, who crashed out. She almost lost her leg. I mean, she had a broken leg. They managed to save it, but I don't think she'll be skiing again, unfortunately. Now, she's sort of old for a skier, and she's had a go, you might say. But she's not going to be going to any more Olympics. But she almost lost her leg, and people die on the slopes. Alpine skiing is sometimes called it's called a controlled fall. And if you see how steep those slopes actually are, which you can with drones these days, you can't actually see it very well with the TV cameras on the ground. You'll realize how incredibly risky downhill skiing is on that level, at the Olympic level. It is. I mean, they really do have balls of solid rock, these skiers, to do what they do. They're throwing themselves down a mountain. Yet no one's ever suggested that it's a sport that should be banned. The number of sports that actually have been banned is actually very small. It's very rare for a sport to be banned over issues of safety. The participants, the players, know the risks. I mean, there was a time when they wanted boxing to be banned. There was like a campaign to ban boxing at some point, and it was defeated because boxing, actually, you may not think so, because there's just some guys dancing around this ring. It's one of the most dangerous sports you can play in terms of injuries and deaths. It's worse than motor racing. And again, motor racing, you're going to every year on the Grand Prix circuit, you'll probably lose a driver. Yeah. But then NASA then says that, well, sooner or later we're going to have a tragic accident. So there's going to be another Apollo 13. It's going to go wrong. And there were 7 instances across the 11 manned Apollo flights, which was essentially near misses, similar to Apollo 13, not as spectacular. But at the same time, the solution would be to learn from those mistakes, learn from those errors, and then do what you can, put in new safety measures and make it safer. Which is why you have new types of helmets for the racing drivers. You have new designs of cars for the racing drivers, things like that. You have different practices. In rugby, it's now standard practice in the scrum to reach forward and make sure the scrum comes together right, so you don't end up breaking the players' necks. Things like that. And when you've done all this, you say, okay, who wants to sign up and do this mission? These are the dangers you face by doing this activity, whether it's a sport or whether it's a space exploration mission. Volunteers only. No one's forcing you. Volunteers only. And you know what? They never have any shortage of volunteers. One of the Apollo 13 crew went back to the moon. Apparently, if they went to the moon, according to history, he went back on another. I think he was the command module pilot. He went back on another mission. So, despite the fact he almost died, he still wanted to go back and try again to go to the moon. He went back to the moon despite that. I wouldn't be surprised if the program had continued. You'd see the other astronauts also on future missions. I'm sure NASA would have said look, you had some bad luck. You didn't get to go to the moon on Apollo 13, so we'll prioritize you for future missions. So I don't buy it. I don't buy what you said here. I really don't. It's not quite the same as Concorde. But anyway, Professor Emlyn-Jones said, Professor Emlyn-Jones is on a roll here, replying to everything that Over the Moon says. Oh, speak the wordage in an understandable communicale. Not all that jibby wacky jabber philolopping from your bocus. My eyeballs are offensive most with Hume infantile scribloads. Deep folly. Now, I don't know what all that means, but I think I get the general idea that Professor Emlyn-Jones is mocking Over the Moon again, for his unwin niece. Now, you might be amused to learn this. Over the Moon, this might amuse you. It certainly did Professor Unwinmost, but I had to liberate almost all of Professor Unwinmost's comments from the spam folder. They were all going there because YouTube has identified unwinnees as spam. But yeah, I have. They're there now. Okay. And 123 says here, my point in posting that link had nothing to do with your personal feelings or opinions. It was simply to bring attention to the context. To the content. The world does not revolve around you, Ben, and this is the first time and this isn't the first time I've had to remind you of that. So what are you talking about? The point in posting a link had nothing to do with your personal feelings or opinions. What link? Did I object? It was simply to bring attention to the content. Did I object to you posting a link over the moon? The world doesn't revolve around you, and this isn't the first time I've had to remind you about that. Okay, well, I don't recall you reminding me before. And if you believe I believe that, if you have a criticism of me thinking the world revolves around you, then by all means let me know what it is. And if I think it's a fair criticism, I'll try to address that. But could you be a bit more precise about what you're talking about? Put in a timestamp or something, because I'm a little bit confused here. And Professor Unwinmost says, were you all wean it on a pickle? Oh, were you weaned on a pickle? On pickle. The earthly bode rotating around portly Benloader with his gravitold fieldage all pull it there. Yes, I've got a big, I'm so huge that I have my own gravitational field. Oh yes, full staffy most with his kingdom all expanding there, deep joy. Yes, Falstaff. I'm like Sir John Falstaff from one of the Shakespeare plays. Over the Moon says, while my comments have garnered 11 likes, this is him addressing Unwinmost. Your replies have barely managed 1. I'm usually reluctant to entertain such buffoonery, but I felt compelled to mention that your one-trick pony routine has become quite a bore. Oh, dearie me. Yes. Over the Moon, you should become, I think you should become a theatre critic for The Guardian. You really should. Professor Unwinmost said, deep folly, you're all huffalo dowder. Screech and squeal, because my high brain bocker is beyond us, your capables, to understand it there. Well, to be honest, Professor, my brain bocker is also slightly below your own capables. I don't always understand everything you say, but there you go. I don't mind. I think it's quite amusing. 1, 2, 3. See Polish. Po as in P-O-E. You're all over the place on Apollo, Ben. Don Pettit's quote was on destroyed technology refers to Apollo as an active program ceasing to exist. If hoax proponents are going to claim lost documents portraying key technology, they have yet to identify them. Randy Walsh made the claim that Grumman won't give you anything on the LEM, but I went and found 69 folders of LEM blueprints and components list, test data, development history. To date, no hoaxer has identified any Apollo engineering that's missing. I'm aware of Phil Couch's article on Owlis and Nexus, but he doesn't mention anything about lost documents. So loosely referring to something you vaguely recall won't fly. All right. Let's just hear what he has to say again. I mean, pardon me. I'm just trying to get Don Pettit. I'll try and find the. Let me just try and find the video I found last time, because we can actually listen to what he has to say. Apollo. I'll just put in Don Pettit Apollo. We'll soon find it. Oh, there's loads of stuff here. I don't know what happened to the thing I had before, because I had what was it? I had something before about this. We found that interview with him. That's the one I'm trying to look for right now. So bear with me when I do this. All right. So, oh, here we go. Right. So here is the thing I'm looking for.
Over the years, I made several videos regarding so-called astronaut Don Pettit, basically the head of mockery when it comes. First off, before even been destroyed, let's take
like you've never left the planet. In fact, it's almost
during this presentation.
Is this the one?
None of these men have been into space. There's a very bizarre interview.
We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back up again. Okay, well, this is a quote here. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. Okay. Yet, Steve Polish says here, Don Pettit's quote on destroys technology refers to Apollo as an active program ceasing to exist. It doesn't really. I mean, I think he'd have been a bit more. I think he'd have used different language if he was referring to He would have said, "We used to have an active a manned moon mission program, but we cancelled it, and so therefore this program no longer exists," or something like that. So, Steve, I don't think that's actually correct. I really don't. And Professor Emlyn-Jones says, yes, but he's our portly Benloader, Falstaffe most and pridely dignified. That's enough. Absolutely, Professor, yes. That's all you need, isn't it? That's all you need. What's that we got here? Right. And we know it here, we have Steve Polish, who says here, petrified wood sample alleged to have a complete chain of custody by Bart Sobral. Quote, I'm not willing to accept your specific accusation here, unquote. I think that's me. Why not? Sobral said it had a complete chain of custody to Apollo, and it hasn't. Netherlands gift samples do. They're both encased in lucite and reside in the museum in Leiden. What the museum did with the Wilhelm Drees sample is irrelevant to the issue. Sobral lied and tried to deceive where the truth of the matter can be found in a few seconds. Von Braun did not pick up hundreds of pounds of lunar meteorites on Antarctica. Nobody knew they had lunar origin material from there until Alan Hills found A81005 in 1982. Right, okay. All right, well, as I said, if that's actually true, then I accept the correction. Okay. As for Von Braun, I'm not so sure because a lot of his activity was pretty much mysterious in between the 1940s and 60s. As you know, he was a part of Project Paperclip, which basically allowed him to come from Germany after the end of the war and work under his own identity in the United States, whereas there were many other Nazi scientists did that under fake identities, including a guy at Stanford called Dr. Brian Greene, whose real name was Joseph Mengele, the butcher of Auschwitz, who did totally and utterly unethical human experimentation, seeing as he had as many non-consensual human subjects as he wanted to, and also SS General Hans Kammler, who was involved in the secret space program. Those guys did work in the US under fake identities. Von Braun was different. He was allowed to operate under his own identity, under his own name, intact. So I'm not actually, so I'll have to look into that some more. But Von Braun did go to Antarctica. He did various things that are quite mysterious. So yeah, I'm not so sure. Oh, we got another from Steve Polish again, who says here, Sobral as liar and deceiver and how it propagates into verifiable myth and more widely. Bart Sobral has consistently touted Bill Kaysing as a key witness to nefarious goings-on in relation to Apollo, or more specifically to F1 engine development. Kaysing has been repeatedly cited, or at least loosely paraphrased, as a significant source favoring some or other element of the conspiracy. Randy Walsh to Matthew Mastonardi, quote, people have spoken up and they've tried to get their message out. One of them, an early pioneer of this, of course, was Bill Kaysing. Bill Casing was one of the whistleblowers. They have gone to great lengths to denigrate that man, to discredit him as much as possible. But he worked for Rocketdyne, which is one of the another of the corporations that built the F1 engine for the Apollo missions. And he noticed they were falsifying that data. And he came forward after he resigned. He worked there from 1958 to 1963, and those engines that Rocketdyne were working at the time were specifically for the Saturn V rocket. He came out and he resigned in 1963 and discussed, and he noticed, because he noticed. And so that's end quote. Bill Casing in an interview with Bart Sabrell. Well, after I quit Rocketdyne, I became a freelance writer and got a book contract. And needing a good place to live, my wife and I bought a 75-foot Coast Guard cutter, which had been converted to living aboard. Well, there were a lot of homeless people near where we stayed at the Oakland Marina, so we invited them to come and stay on the boat. After all, it was 75 feet long, lots of room. So one of the men was a Vietnam veteran with a heroin habit. His name was John Grant, and he said, "Bill, the government really screwed me. They taught me how to kill. They sent me to Vietnam. I killed a lot of innocent people," unquote. He says, "I'm very bitter at this corrupt government." He said, "You're a writer. Why don't you write something outrageous, like, say, we never went to the moon?" And that's exactly where I got the idea from John Grant in 1974 at the Oakland Marina. Okay. Unquote. I've got a good answer for that, but I'll let Steve Polish continue. Randy has regularly rolled out the Casing claims, as have the Apollo detectives. The facts are, Casing never wrote anything on falsified F1 data in his book, nor anything on F1 thrust data generally, as he never saw the period where the F1 Saturn Apollo development was finalized. I say again, the only people who regularly and consistently caught lying about Apollo are the hoax brigade. Right. Okay, I've got a good answer to this. Now, the first bit here, I know, is Randy's biography of Bill Casing. But let's just take a closer look at Bill Casing's life and how it matches with the following story that you tell. Now, I never met Bill Casing. I know that Jarrell White talked to him. I know that he was also involved in David Percy Mary Bennett's book. Right. So, because I'm interested in the timing, I'm interested in timing here, because he said that he met this guy John Grant, who was this homeless man who he invited to stay on his boat. So there's this homeless drug addict in Oakland at the Oakland Marina, and he has this. He said he got this idea from John Grant in 1974. Right, how come the Wikipedia page won't open? Okay. I'm just going through. Sorry about the silence here. I'm just interested in his bibliography. So we have here. So he wrote quite a lot of books here. There's Ex-Urbanite's Complete Farmer's Guide. He started writing in 1966. Cycling, Intelligent Motorcycling, 1966. Here we are. We Never Went to the Moon. NASA, America's $30 billion swindle. Health Research Books, 1976. Okay. So the whole thing just came from that. So in just 2 years, a maximum 2 years, because 1974 to 19, it could be late 1974, early 1976. Well, when's the actual date of publication? Or just as 1976. He decided to basically screw his entire reputation because of because of the advice of what Charlie Veach calls a crackhead. That to me seems unlikely. It seems unlikely. I mean, and I don't know why Bill said this with Bart Sabrell. I've never seen this interview with Bart and Bill. And so so John Grant wants to get his own back on the government for what they did to him, sending him into the Vietnam War and things like that. Now, if that's the case, firstly, why did Bill do what he said? Why didn't Bill write a book saying how awful the Vietnam War was. Because let's just say, after the end of the Vietnam War, lots of Americans did this. Loads of journalists and writers spoke out and said, "Look, what a horrible thing it was, and how you should have listened to the Doves back in the '60s." So this doesn't quite make sense. I'll have to listen to Bart's interview again. I will, anyway. But Steve, honestly, if I've made a mistake here, I'll admit it, like I did over the petrified wood thing. Maybe you're right about the petrified wood. And we have Kesp, CESP, who says here on 123, was Pussy Galore in Diamonds Are Forever? Was it the one with the red Mustang leaving a trail of devastated police cars on two wheels out of a dead end? I don't know. I don't know exactly. I know that these James Bond girls, Pussy Galore. I know she's played by Honor Blackman. Yeah, a fictional character in the 1959 Ian Fleming Bond novel Goldfinger. All right, and the 1964 film of the same name. Sorry, the novel Goldfinger, the 1964 film of the same name, played by Honor Blackman. The character returned in 2015 in the novel Trigger Mortis, right? And Ian Fleming based her on his bit on the side. Yeah. But which film was she in? Yeah, she was in Goldfinger. Now, that's not Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever is the one with the moon buggy, where Bond escapes from the bad guy's lair in a moon buggy on the fake moon set. But all the Bond girls have very suggestive names. There's Fatima Blush, there was Plenty O'Toole, and they all have names like that. It's very I can say it's anti-feminist. It's not really I would say James Bond is not really anti-feminist. It's too kind of yeah, I suppose it's a little bit too over the top to be anti-feminist. It's more just sort of like a non-awareness of the entire issue, not an opposition to it. I'll tell you, if you want an anti-feminist story, a very good one is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And I reckon there's loads of movies and TV adaptations. I recommend the original one by Alfred Hitchcock. 123. Cesp says here, was that true about Philip Glass? Can it be proved? What did I say about Philip Glass? I mean, I know that he was allegedly homosexual and he was being blackmailed over it. I don't know about that, but the thing about do you mean that what I said about I don't know if you mean what he said about what else did he say? What he did about Travis Walton? Is that what you mean? Could you be more precise exactly what I actually said, Cesp? Right, 40 Yards says on 123. Last, it's a credit to you, Ben, that you welcome both pro and con comments and don't take offense. Thanks, mate. Thanks. It's a real rarity these days. Always really enjoy these shows and learn a lot every time. A great loss losing Marcus Allen, who so selflessly brought us Nexus to England and such a wonderful orator of truth. Rest in peace, Marcus Allen. Thank you. Thanks again, Ben, and take care. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks very much. Okay. Now, Steve Polish says here, Marcus was intelligent, articulate, and unique amongst the moon landing conspiracists in his ability to trot out various undisputed facts. However, in between these facts, he slotted Apollo claims and assertion, which were total bunk. Oh, fair enough. I think I know what you're going to say, Steve. And as I said, I don't mind people. Just because Marcus has passed away doesn't mean he can't be criticized. In the same way, just because Ian R. Crane passed away doesn't mean that Andrew Johnson can't criticize him. It's to do with timing and appropriateness with the particular post. And in this case, this particular video, I don't mind people still continue to criticize Marcus's ideas. He relates he became suspicious of Apollo decades ago, finding numerous giveaways betraying an orchestrated hoax. Strange then that before the British Interplanetary Society, he temporarily flipped to a position where the LROC provided all the evidence he needed to convince him the missions were genuine. Is that the lunar retroreflector? But once he left the lecture den, he was back to being a total disbeliever. Now, I covered this at the time. Where was it? I covered this at the time because there's a lot of us. Now, I can't find the bloody video, but I remember people were saying this when Marcus spoke at Dreaming Saucers, or was it all Roswell 70? I can't remember which. Let me just show you, because I've actually got a portal on this. I've got a portal on this whole issue. Come on. There you can see, have a quick look at, I'm just waiting for this page to open. But that's my latest post in a HPANWO voice. See, this is my CERN portal, but I've got portals on all these other subjects where it's at the moon landings. Here we go. So you get an awful lot by just going to these portals and finding out things. Now, where was it? Here we are. Marcus Allen's moon landing U-turn. I wrote this, and I says it's come to my attention that Marcus Allen might have done a Charlie Veach-style U-turn on the moon landing hoax. This came after this instance here. He attended a live debate. The only source for information, and the only source for information was something on apollohoax.net. I actually said at the time that and then there's Mary. This is Mary Bennett's author, but I actually did an update myself here. You can see BIS update. Here we go. A few weeks ago, I reported, etc., etc. I originally heard about the debate before it happened. As you see, the initial report portrayed the event as a decisive victory for the Apollo believer cause, and Marcus being demolished and eventually becoming a reformed character, recanting his entire theoretical model of the Apollo hoax theory. My main objective in writing an article was to attempt to protect Marcus from the retaliation that would result. I actually did say, look, if Marcus changes his mind on this, don't get arsy. We don't get nasty with him, all right? But as you can see, Mary's own report tells a different story. Let's have a quick look at it. And there may not be time to read all of this, but we should have a look at it anyway. But anyway, it says here, as you can see, it tells a different story. It's strange how separate people can interpret the same event in such diverging ways, which was the most accurate report. Into the Lion's Den. And there's part 2 as well. Now, I don't have time to read all this, but please go and read Mary's report here, which was actually put on our list all those years ago. Now, the problem with this issue now, Steve, is that the actual recording is gone. I can't find it anywhere. Now, I do remember debating this with someone many years ago, and it turns out that Marcus actually didn't do what you said. He did not flip. He did not recant. However, I can't actually prove that now because the recording is gone. Okay, here we go now. Roll film, says Steve, does indeed work in a vacuum, contrary to his claims. Robert Williams' rather clumsy experiment proves this, but he simply decided to say it proved the opposite. Williams produced a discernible photo prints with the same color imbalance Apollo did. That's why Kodak advertised their role in Apollo, and why Kodak are never mentioned as co-conspirators. PET S-star film will indeed outgas over a period of weeks, but not over the duration of an Apollo mission. It's why the same polymer hybrid is used for long-term storage of water and soft drinks. It's chemically stable and highly resistant to outgassing. Okay, well, I take your point on. I'm sure you're right about the soft drinks thing, but I mean, if you looked at the actual data, if you looked at the results, those prints, I mean, if those came back from Boots in that state and they were like wedding photos, I'd sue the bastards. You say it's the same color imbalance that Apollo had. Now, and when you consider the loss of resolution and the fact that there are colored spots on Apollo which are very discernible. I mean, I know it's mostly grays and blacks and whites, but there's some yellows and reds and things like that. There's the flag of the United States. I don't see how you can say that the quality is the same there. Marcus held lunar vacuum as a savage master with an ability to act on flimsy man-made materials. It isn't. Vacuum is a state of emptiness, not a force, and certainly not a sucking force. The difference between LEO vacuum and lunar vacuum is less than 1% in a solar system, which seems an average matter presence of 0.2 to 5 atoms per cubic centimeter. Now, yes, gravity, of course, vacuum is not a force, but it can generate forces when there is a pressure difference between it and another location, which is what sucking is. When you suck things, when I do this, I'm generating a mild vacuum in my mouth, which causes the coffee to rise up from the cup into my mouth. Now, in terms of the moon landings, you had objects with an internal pressure caused by the fact they'd been in an atmosphere, and they were like, and indeed some of the atmosphere and actually leached into them, which was then subjected to a vacuum. That's the issue. There was also liquids such as the film and stuff like that. Now, as far as the difference between low Earth orbit and the moon, according to Scott, I mean, if you remember Scott's theory about that, I mean, Scott was the one he primarily talked about this, Scott Henderson, that there's a big difference. The effects of vacuum over even though the vacuum might say a vacuum's a vacuum is a vacuum. If you were in low Earth orbit and you were trying to breathe, or you were landing on and you try to breathe in, and you were on the moon and you try to breathe in, obviously you die probably equally quickly. But in terms of the materials, there's a big difference apparently between was it 1.2 torr and 8 torr, etc. Marcus is on record telling MC Toon only one photo of the blue marble Earth was taken. There are actually dozens. Oh, I don't know about that. He told MC Toon if Marcus is wrong, then he was wrong. The surface photo of Earth just above the lead was impossible, as the astronaut would have toppled over backwards while aiming the chest camera at such an angle. Marcus seemed not to know that cameras were easily unclipped from the chest bracket. All right, I don't know about that, because I mean, there's a separate photo. If you remember, there's TV coverage where you can actually see the photo being taken, and you can see quite clearly that the astronaut is holding the camera in his hands on the TV coverage of that photo being taken. And I think Marcus might even have mentioned that. So I don't know. Is it really Marcus who said that? Or was it someone else? I mean, you could ask the additional question of how on earth did this particular astronaut manage to hold the camera in his hands, which were like these thick armored gauntlets, and operate the shutter and things like that. That's another issue. I'm sorry he's gone. The ADs, the Apollo detectors, may have some difficulty filling the void. Well, I appreciate your comment there at the end. Certainly, Steve, I really do. You know, I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't, like yourself, I mean, I wouldn't gloat over the death of an opponent. I certainly didn't over James Randi. So, yeah. Thanks very much. Okay, so that's an answer to all those questions as far as I can right now. We now reached the end of an hour, so back shortly. I think we've gone slightly over an hour, actually, but doesn't matter really, that does it that much. If you can't hear your comment within the timestamps, they're not always accurate, so please just go back 5 minutes or go forward 5 minutes. You can excuse me for that inaccuracy, can't you? All right, guys, here we go. Hour number 2. This is going to be a long one. It's going to be a long one. We're only barely must be less than a third of the way through onto the second hour. But then that's to be expected, because I don't think I really had time. So it's fair enough. I didn't actually have time, but I should have done I normally do them every 2 weeks. It's been now almost a month since the last reply to comments video. So it's no wonder it's long. All right, so now we have Over the Moon saying, you're worried about privacy regarding insurance discounts for Tesla drivers using FSD. And yet you have a mobile phone which can be tracked to within a few feet. So the FSD is basically the what's the word? Whether or not they're using the automatic control or not. The insurance broker is interested in whether FSD is engaged or not. If it is, you get the 50% discount. If not, you don't. They don't give a toss if you drive to Aunt Fanny's or Uncle Dick's. Well, I'm sure that the people at the Tesla Motors don't. Yeah, your people down the local showroom or the people who work in the insurance office, I'm sure they don't. But I think if Uncle Fanny or if Aunt Fanny or Uncle Dick was sort of like a conspiracy theorist who said lots of politically incorrect things online and tried to expose government false flag operations, for example, I think someone else might be a little bit find it a little bit problematic, and indeed may find a way to access that FSD data from Tesla Motors with or without the permission of the company. That's what concerns me. Anyway, Over the Moon continues. The average car insurance cost in the UK is around £500, so it's not going to be a £5 discount as you described it. It's more like a £250 discount. Right. The whole point of my post was to show AI isn't as dumb as you like to make out. It's already doing one of the most complex tasks the average human does in their life, and it's doing it way better. Well, Over the Moon, I actually... I'm sure that there's certain things that AI, like any other form of electronics, even much older ones, more primitive ones, can do better than we do. My pocket calculator I had when I was a little kid in the 80s could work things out quicker than I did. It could work out sums that I couldn't ever. The question is, though, why it's not perfect. It has its faults, and in some cases, it is very dumb. I mean, it says some pretty stupid things sometimes. And sometimes I've asked ChatGPT and Google AI and Grok for advice on very simple practical tasks, such as reading a train timetable properly and giving me more information on it. And it can't do that. That's why in that case it is quite dumb. So it's a bit of both, I think. Professor Emlyn-Jones says in reply, and of course he has to reply to Over the Moon, are you solid bone from eardrove to eardrove? Those muscly tessalopus, are you solid bone? Yeah, from to ear to ear. Those muscly tessalopus are from the interfold Dante. Inferno Dante, Dante's Inferno. Abandon hope, all you who trickly howl there. Yeah, has Dante's classic Divine Comedy actually been translated into Unwinese yet, Professor Emlyn-Jones? I know there is actually a comic book version by Hunt Emerson that I've actually read. I showed, if you read my last report on Weird Weekend North, you'll see it. I'm going back there this year, apparently. Yeah. Oh, yes. One moment you're reclining reading Poa Trail, Weevely Basket, looking at the daily scrib loaders, women chest all bouncy most. I know what that means. Then the Tessimole has a wobbler, and you squeezy box loaded around a trail with the steering wheel up your keyboard. Deep folly. Yes, exactly. I mean, even to be honest, even the Tesla manufacturer itself, and indeed the advice is even when it's on automatic control, keep your hand on the wheel like you would normally. Keep your hands on the wheel, keep your feet near the pedals, like you would with cruise control. Keep your feet near the pedals. I mean, cruise control is a type of automatic machine. It's like an auto throttle. It's like an auto throttle on an aircraft. But they do say keep your feet near the pedals even when you've got cruise control on. And they also say with Tesla, keep your hands on the wheel even when it's on automatic. So yeah, otherwise you could end up round that trail. Yes, no one wants that. David Smith says here, oh, this is all on 123, by the way. All these comments are on 123. I've been trying to say that's reply to comments 123. Hi, Ben. Glad to hear you're no longer in support of the King of the USA. We'll try to give our other content a listen. Oh, right. Great, David. So now you've got that out of the way and you realize I'm not like a Trump aficionado anymore, or at least I'm not at the moment with his current behavior. You could perhaps, maybe you see me kind of like a bit more, you maybe see me in a different light. I should warn you, the circumstances change. I might go back to supporting him. It's just, my support for him was never unconditional. I think your arguments for the majority of your claims can be used as a special pleading fallacy. It's why you won't believe similar things that have the same or better levels of evidence. Yeah, you have actually given me some examples, David Smith, and we have discussed them. I'm happy to discuss them some more. You believe what you do not because the evidence is there, brackets, It was. If it were, it would be widely investigated like any good hypothesis and then peer reviewed and proven correct. Oh, not. Oh dear. No, I don't think so. Not for some of the things I talk about. And yet, cases where there is clean evidence, you often dismiss. That is all special pleading on your part, like being anti-V. That is for the C as one example. Okay, so being anti-V for the C. I'm not even going to say what it is, even though you're allowed to on YouTube. Is there a special pleading there? I mean, I am anti a certain medical treatment because I believe it is harmful. Indeed, that I'm kind of been proven right on that for the disease, which is a potentially dangerous disease. But there are other ways of dealing with it. I myself, I'm not part of any vulnerable group. I had it. I avoided contact with vulnerable people while I was infectious. So, yeah. Anyway, David says, regarding you being targeted, this is over the suing thing, this lawsuit. If you believe you're being targeted, then the burden of proof is on you. I think you believe it because it fits in with your preconceived beliefs, not because there's actual good reason to think it. That's the issue. Are you sure nobody else has been contacted for using the same picture? How far have you actually investigated this, or are you just relying on those beliefs without much due diligence? David, I think as time goes on, if this lawsuit progresses, I will be doing more investigation into this. I have looked up the various people, like the people who claim to be my creditors. I have, and I've told you, they do have a reputation for bad practice. I've also given reasons why I think that the case against them in terms of the use of the image is not correct. Now, I don't think that's special. I mean, does it fit in with preconceived beliefs? I don't know. I mean, like I've said earlier, I do have prejudice. You yourself said you have prejudice. What I do know is I've given a reason why I think, based on my experience of dealing with these people already, I've given a reason why I think that their case against me is not valid. Now, it may be different. I mean, you and I have discussed it elsewhere. You think otherwise. We have discussed it. So, if it's special pleading, why am I willing to discuss? Wouldn't it be more likely in terms of like human psychology for me to be very reluctant to discuss this with you if I was committing a special pleading fallacy? I mean, you have put comments, I believe, on the I'm being sued video, and you're free to put more of them. There will probably be By the way, I won't say anything too much yet, but I've already found an interesting new tidbit of information. Now, to be fair, I didn't actually find this myself. Someone else discovered it for me, but they told me about it. And it's something I should have actually thought of in my own research and didn't. In general, the burden of proof is on the one making the claim, whether that be for a personal belief, experience, or video, etc. Someone who doesn't accept that claim has no burden to prove otherwise. Just like you don't have to. Okay. The gold box scam. I won't read that out in detail, but you give the good example of the gold box scam. Yes. Oh, there's gold. It's in this vault in Lagos. Just send me the £200 release fee, and it's all yours. Well, you accept things with similar standards of evidence, video stories, claims by people taking substance, yet reject others with the same or better evidence, science-based medicine, gold box scams, etc. All right, I think we have discussed this. We've addressed this point before, David. You say the burden of proof is on the one making the claim. That's true. Yet saying, for example, that Helen Duncan had a load of cheesecloth up her jacksie is a claim, right? That's just one example. Would you agree that Harry Price was making a claim there, right? Yet no one ever says this to him. They say Harry Price there's no burden of proof on Harry Price. All right, the burden of proof is on Helen Duncan to prove that this was a spirit and not cheesecloth. Okay. So that, I think, is another form of special pleading that skeptics often commit. Skeptics often say, well, we don't have to. They seem, I don't know whether it's you specifically, but people like Annie Jacobson. She says, well, I know that I have an explanation for the Roswell incident, and I won't say what that explanation is. You can look it up. It's in her book Area 51, which I reviewed. And it is one of the most horrible, gut-wrenching and terrifying and really appalling theories I've ever heard to explain the Roswell incident. It's truly, it really makes my skin crawl to read what she said about the Roswell incident. I hope to God it's not true. I really hope to God it's not true. I'd rather it was a weather balloon than that. But Annie, when people say to Annie, how do you know this? She said, trust me, bro. I've got an anonymous source. And she gets her anonymous source passed because she doesn't believe in aliens. That's another example. So, yeah, you're now Harry Price. Explain how Helen Duncan has cheesecloth up her jacksie. And don't say, well, no, Helen Duncan is the one making the claim. I'm just, no, you're making a positive claim to explain this phenomenon, even though you think you're not, you are. So, you see, so what you say in this paragraph, I think, it's sometimes, I think skeptics sometimes take this off, they run with it, and they misunderstand it. He continues. AI can certainly be used for political purposes, but if you give it certain prompts, you can avoid much of the noise. Yeah, it seems to be improving a bit, I think I'm saying. From what I've seen, users getting AI to act woke or claim God exists, etc., have all influenced the chat model beforehand. If it's giving a woke answer, then I'd be curious exactly what that means. Probably some right-winger who simply didn't like being told T people have no rights to or something. All right. Well, I mean, I think if you really go around saying certain demographics don't have rights, and you prompt it, eventually Google AI will come around to your way of thinking. I doubt that. And I'll give you, I mean, you say that it's if you give it certain prompts, you can avoid much noise. So if it's giving a woke answer, then it's probably nothing to do with reprogramming. I don't know, but if you remember my own, did you remember my own experience with AI and my video? It was called "Should We Welcome Our Robot Overlords?" It was a very good video about AI, where I actually take you through a conversation I have with ChatGPT, where I just asked it, what is the New World Order? And it gives me a very long answer, including a lot of disclaimers and indeed advice for me, which is very much along the lines that because I asked that question, it has to consider the possibility, or someone has made it consider the possibility I might be some kind of deranged lunatic who's going to carry out a terrorist atrocity. Now, I'm not that kind of person, and anyone who knows me will tell you that, but it has to assume that I might be because I asked, what is the New World Order? Now, I don't believe simply from that question alone, for its own internal algorithms, it could come up with this long paragraph of like warnings and if you're feeling anxious and angry, then please call this number. It didn't actually say a number, but it said it's vital you seek support, and there are lots of helplines you can call and things like that. It wouldn't have come out like that. It wouldn't have come like this. Someone told it to do so. I've not seen too many on the right punching right. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what that's the point I made. I also didn't see that. No, hang on. No, sorry. I'm back. I'm getting it back to front. Okay. I have not seen too many on the right punching right. I get it. Yeah. Look how Trump got elected. He didn't say a bad word about the ends. He wanted their votes. Who's the ends? He didn't say a bad word about the ends. Oh, you mean the hush? Got it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. He didn't say a bad word about the German dictatorship from the mid-20th century. Well, he said there's this idea. He said they were very fine people, which is not true. He wanted the votes of like the far right, basically the far right ethno-nationalists. You didn't have to be an N-word to support him. That is the Germans. You didn't have to be these German dictators to support him, but all the German dictators did. No. But I mean, I think he did say he did express opinions which made it very, very clear he was not. And he was not a person who could ever be considered an ally. Now, all politicians want people to vote for them, whoever they might be. But he said, for example, that he respected the Jewish community. Like an N would never say that, would he? An N would never say that. He had a lot of Jewish supporters, again, you see. And he says here, with regards to the left punching left, I actually see that quite a lot. Look how late the Labour Party is getting talked about by those on the left. Well, actually, can I come to mention it? Considering recent events, it's just literally within the last couple of weeks, you're probably right. I mean, there's been a massive, there's been a backlash against Starmer from the left, which is probably even more severe than the one from the right. It's like Alexei Sale. You remember that Alexei Sale film? I hate Keir Starmer. That was really funny. That was. So it's actually quite. I mean, it's just quite recent, but there have been more and more divisions within the left. And of course, there's the trans versus TERFs. There's the intersectionals versus and the within feminism. There's various other people on the atheist scene. There's the slime pit versus atheism plus and things like that. So maybe you're right about that. But I mean, I've seen many people on the right punching right. I mean, one of the worst is the biggest figure on the British right, Nigel Farage, is notorious for this. This is why you have Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib setting up separate parties, because they've been kicked out of foot reform for making demands of Farage that he didn't want to do, usually involving the investigations of certain crimes. And indeed, they even funded these investigations. I'd like to see these cases where feminists are supporting extreme positions, because I don't see any evidence for it. I literally have a person who literally blocked me, who I used to know, because I made this point on her in her blog article. She refused to publish my comment where I'd said I'd said that I gave a list of something a rad femme had said, and she said, "Oh, don't look down on the radical feminists. They're not that bad." And I know for a fact she supported a rad femme in this debate. Yet she herself describes herself as a post-feminist, a modern feminist. There's a bit of evidence. There's more of it than that. If you can you find me an example where a moderate feminist, say in a university campus, will denounce like Germaine Greer or Julie Bindel or one of these other people? I mean, I don't see it anywhere. If you could find me an example, please do. Please send it to me. The yellowish mark comment was referring to somebody giving evidence on video or something they saw and couldn't explain, and thus they labelled it not of this world. Right? I don't know. I just can't quite remember what you meant by yellowish mark. It's been a long time since my last reply to comment. So you're just talking. Well, I can infer you mean somebody talking about giving evidence of something they couldn't explain and labelled it not of this world. In other words, I see something in the sky I don't recognise. It's alien. This would give them the burden of proof. In that case, I agree. Yes, it would. I can't just point at something I see in the sky, like the little white circular thing I saw, and say that's alien. If you watch the video I made about this or read the article, you'll see that what I was actually referring to was simply something in the sky I couldn't see, which I described. As the seance I went, Jason Harrington, when I went to see Jason Harrington's seance, I never said that he was producing ghosts. I saw his hands changing shape. That's all I said. David says, nobody has to offer an alternative explanation. If they can't prove it, they fail and their belief is irrational. Well, in this case, yes, if you see like a light in the sky and you say that's a flying saucer from Zeta Reticuli, nobody has to come forward and say, no, that's not a flying saucer from Zeta Reticuli. They don't have to. I know that. David Smith then says in reply to his own comments, channels like the line comment, or left-leaning Green Party content creators completely rail against parties that are left-leaning. Our channels like the line or left-leaning Green Party content creators completely rail against parties that are left-leaning. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand that comment. Professor N. Unwinmost says, the United Strails of America deserves your appreciation, gratifols, and prostrakers on the face bowl. Oh, yes. Now, write out 100 Tylos. Trumply Donalode is my cap trail. Oh, cap trail. I think, right, I'll be interested to see if David actually does as you ask there. I suspect he will not. Right, ending the South first. Says 6EQUJ5, aka the WOW signal. Second, says DJB2. Well done, guys. Well done. 69 Phuket says third. I think you mean third. Unless you're making a rude comment about the videos, Phuket. All right, so right. Check your pockets. Unfortunately, C says. Now I know what this is. It's that I know I got. I could go to the timestamp. It's where someone stopped me on the street, just when I got off the coach up on Buckingham Palace Road, and they stopped me on the street. I actually did already think of that, Cesp. Yeah, my hands actually went to my pockets. I've got zip pockets, but still, my hands immediately went to my pockets. I've been in London enough times to know that. You got to be very careful. Do you remember Steve Marsh, the travel vlogger? He got his pockets picked in Ecuador. And he lost his mobile phone. It had pictures of his late father on, which he hadn't backed up. That was very sad. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I find London the kind of place where I'm kind of on my guard for that. Definitely. Ending the South. Over the Moon says, you should have said I'd have come along. Oh, Over the Moon, you know, mate, you live in the area, do you? Yeah, please, I did mention it on a couple of videos. I'll try to do that a little bit more. But, you know, I am going back there, by the way. Just look at the website. I showed you the website. Just subscribe to their list, and you'll see when I come around. I come again because yeah, I'm going to be invited back. But if you're in the area, yeah, please do come along. I did mention it on my videos, nevertheless. But yeah, it'd be great to meet you. Ending the South, Arch Channel said, your Trump impression sounds like Elvis. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. Yeah. I don't think Trump can sing as well as Elvis. Right, same video, Over the Moon says here. It's a classic case of the writing on the wall. You're spot on. While a random individual might not walk into Shell and shut them down today, the global market is already doing the talking. That refers to me. That refers to my claim that, you know, oil companies would oppose free energy. Yeah. Now here's the irony of the situation: the Saudi strategy. Through Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia is investing billions into tourism, tech, and renewable energy. When the world's largest oil explorer starts hedging its bets, it's a massive signal that they see an expiration date on petrodominance. The Shell reality. Even Shell isn't just an oil company anymore. They've rebranded as an energy company, pivoting heavily towards EV charging networks and wind power. They know that demand doesn't have to hit zero for their current business model to become obsolete. It just has to drop enough to make extraction unprofitable. Yeah, in other words, peak oil, Over the Moon. Yeah, peak oil is being discussed even in conventional circles now. The shift isn't going to be a dramatic movie moment where someone walks in and says, no. It's a slow, calculated migration of capital. As the saying goes, the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. That's actually true. And you know what? I've actually thought about that a bit. And maybe I think I've oversimplified my analogy there. You know, you're sorry, your service is no longer required. When it comes to like the end of petrodominance, yes, you're absolutely correct. However, there may be enough petrol, say, in EV charging, wind power, and indeed nuclear fission, for it to replace it in terms of an industry up to a certain point. The difference is when you get into Schauberger coils and cold fusion, you may hit a point where they can't adapt to that. I mean, in a sense, conventional, I mean, we know that conventional alternative energy such as solar and wind is technically free energy. Yes, the actual generation costs are zero because they come from a natural source, in the same way that a zero-point field would. I think the difference is firstly, the practicality. I mean, solar and wind have high enough overheads to mean that money can still be made off that system. When you're talking about something you can just stick under your car bonnet and drive it forever, that's a different matter. No, you know, you don't need even EV charging. So I don't know precisely, but my first guess intuitively is that what we're dealing with in terms of zero-point energy and what you might call suppressed free energy technology is a different kettle of fish to official alternatives. That's a good comment, though, actually. Yeah, that's a good comment. The Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones, yeah. But, you know, peak oil is something that's being discussed very openly now in many, many places. I mean, it's interesting, actually. I could go into more detail maybe in another video, but the abiotic oil theory, the fact that I think it's very interesting. Oh, hang on, I've got a reply here from David Smith. Oh, there's another David Smith reply I didn't see, and nothing from Professor Unwin most this time, interestingly. But it's there may be not a dramatic movie moment, but there's going to be a time when I think we're going to be living in a world where basically you cannot control the distribution of energy anymore. I mean, you got to realize that oil is essentially energy rationing, which gives the authorities control. Wind and solar also allows energy rationing, and then that may be another issue as well. Not just profit, but power. I mean, political power, not energy. David Smith says, I love it when AI makes sense, but the conspiracy would need to be, why aren't the big oil companies deleting all the people making wind and solar power? Oh, that's right. They're sneakily investing in it. So the whole free energy is kept secret because it's a threat is nonsense. It'd just be another strategy about making money from an energy company. Okay, yeah, that's a reply to your own. You made a comment reply to your own opening post, and again, I've kind of addressed that. I think. Ending the South, 69 Phuket. I really enjoyed your talk, Ben. Also, the tour of Southend-on-Sea. Thanks for taking us along. You're welcome, Phuket. I'm glad you liked it. Oh, so Coag Music. Oh, bless you, Coag. Coag Music is the creator of the theme. Now, Coag Music has an attribution license, so you can use their music so long as you attribute it, which I always do. And they also ask you to email them and give a link to the video, which I've done. And Coag Music very nicely has put their own little comment on it. So thanks, Coag. I love that tune. The tune is great. It's obviously like a cover version of the first movement of what I think is the most beautiful piece of music I've ever heard, which is "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" by Pink Floyd. It's obviously a cover version of the first movement of that. So yeah, really great work there, really. And your other tunes are really good. I might dip into them again. So yeah, definitely. Cheers. Professor Emlyn-Jones says here on James opens the pipe. Oh my God. This is being brought. I'm glad you brought this up again, actually, because I've come up against another example. This is all over the UFO. I'll address your comment, but this all over the UFO sphere. They're talking about this. But Professor Emlyn-Jones said, so it really was a due diligence, pleasury most, all vibrail up the Kaibold, right? I think you're referring. No, I don't understand every word there, but I think Professor Emlyn-Jones is suggesting that the pipe that James created is some kind of sex toy. Well, if so, mate, your Kaibold must be rather large, because I wouldn't want that in mine. I wouldn't want that inserted into my Kaibold. I think it would be rather uncomfortable and painful to the point where I might need hospital treatment afterwards. Yes. Yeah. But James's pipe was obviously a hoax. Now there's another one. Have you seen this? Oh God, have you seen this? Where is it? Oh dear. The Dread Sphere. Oh, it's already been. Here we go. This is the latest. I'm not even going to make a bloody video about this. It's absurd. But anyway, there's the Dread Sphere. Now this is vetted here. This is Dread. He's called Amber. What's the name of his channel? I don't know. Here we go. But this is Patrick from Vetted actually has done a video about this. Where is it? Here we go. Where's his video? Where's the link here? All right, source link. Here we go. All right. Patrick from Vetted has done a. Here we go.
Vetting something.
This is his video there. But this is the actual thing here. Now I haven't watched all of this yet. I didn't need to watch all of it to know that some of this was a bit of.
Eventually, people are going to say, "What the hell?"
Oh no, this is
on?
Right. This is polarity source thing. But you got to go down to another link for the actual introduction. Where is it? Here we go. Polarity Josh. This is a very good video too. It's a very interesting video. Where is the right? I can't see the actual link. But he's someone called. Right, there's no source link here. But basically,
no matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light.
Pushing you milestone to things that look like this in the sky.
The Dread Sphere. All right, this Dread Sphere. All right, well, I'll tell you, it is a. It's this guy who's been other channels want more deep dives. I can't find the source. Did Patrick have a source here? An original daily videos, interviews, buy merch. The source link is this. But where did the dread sphere come from? Maybe I can find the original channel, because it's good to go back to the original source link. Cosmic, is there a new boogosphere? Oh, blimey. This is really everywhere now. Oh, here he is, Alistair Dread. This is the guy, Alistair Dread. Now, he's known as... This channel doesn't have any content. Oh, hang on. Oh, no, it does. Hang on. Here we go. Here we go. Right, he's taken down all his previous content except this one thing. He used to have loads of videos on here, which all gaming and stuff like this. And he's recently come up with this... Oh, no, that's funny. He's removed the live stream. So he's already started deleting some of these videos. But basically, you can see here, this is polarity.
And I think this is so interesting, because when we get to the part...
Far from home.
He sees this thing in the sky
It's
here.
important to remember that.
All right. And then it comes down to the ground and actually lands on the ground. This is Dread. This is Alistair.
Yeah, they said apparently they've been talking to him, and they would like to...
All right. This is Alistair. Oh, this is
Okay,
interview with
they
Alistair.
can hear him.
He did, which I've not watched yet, but he did this interview with Alistair, Polarity. This is Josh, a guy called Josh. And this is the actual...
Something that could lead to...
See, it comes down on the ground, this big metal thing. And later on, there's a video of Alistair in his room spinning this sphere. It starts spinning by itself. Now, I should point out that I haven't watched the whole thing, and to be honest, I only watched some of it to see that this is probably... I can't see how this is true. I mean, you see, it's obviously more sophisticated than James. I mean, James had obviously an artifact, and this one's got an artifact, but this one also has a lot of visual effects too. You see it in the sky, and he shines a laser pointer at it, which you shouldn't do, as Todd Curtis will probably tell you. And then it comes down the ground, and it's all kinds of weird effects. But even though it's a live stream, unfortunately, I think it is possible to fake these things. And indeed, Patrick has pointed out some suspicious elements of the initial sky footage as well. But this is basically the new James. It's the new boogosphere. It even has marks on it like the boogosphere. And I'm afraid I'm very dubious about it indeed. I'm not going to cover this, actually, unless there's more news on it. But anyway, that's hopefully the end of James's pipe. Right, ending the south, we have Spaceman, good name, who says a 15-minute Oxford mate. Old mate of mine was a porter, Ben. So I know it isn't just breaking cardboard boxes down when there's nothing to do. I must get to one of your talks one day. All right, Spaceman, are you in Oxford? But thanks. Oh, yeah, so your old mate was a hospital porter. Well, pride and dignity to him. Neil Peel said here on Ending the South, you said you hadn't seen the sea since your trip to the Isle of Man, but I think you forgot Weymouth. Great video report, Ben. Oh, yes, Neil, yeah. Oh, it must have been, yeah. I mean, there may have been other times when I was near the sea. You know, I can't remember because I travel so much. I'm such a globetrotter, yeah. And Neil says, those murals were brilliant, by the way. They were, weren't they? Yeah, they were fantastic. As you as an artist will appreciate that, won't you? And we have a thread here from Neil, who says here on Ending the South, not even a passenger on that first South End Pier train. That must be a tedious job driving back and forth on a pier all day. You know, imagine as train driving jobs go, it's not the most exciting in the world. But, you know, there's guys doing it. I mean, I thought I'd get in the train, but, you know, I didn't buy a ticket because I wanted to walk. I'll go back there again at some point and maybe take the train. And David, Splendid Isolation, says, would be great if you were allowed to listen to podcasts while you do it, but probably not. I doubt if you'd be allowed to listen to podcasts even on a long straight 1.3 mile railway between the end of a pier and the shore, because it doesn't go anywhere else. I mean, there's a pier on the big Isle of Wight pier ride on the Isle of Wight. There's another quite long pier, which is in which a train actually goes down the pier, but it's not a special train for the pier. It's actually part of the Isle of Wight radio network. So a railway network, so you can't actually see the whole thing. You can't actually. It's not just confined to the pier. Whereas the South End Pier Railway is simply a completely private, independent railway. But yes, if you're allowed to listen to podcasts, yeah, absolutely. Now I'm lucky enough to have a job where I can listen to podcasts while I'm at work, and I consider myself very lucky to do that. Yes. Neil says here, yeah, you're listening to HPANWO radio as you drive a train, and then spot Ben walking along the pier. And he said, Ben, it's you, hey! And I say, yeah. And then he crashes the train and kills everyone on board. Oh, dear. And David says, haha, that will blow my mind. And Neil Peel says, Clown's Day off, just a coincidence. Yeah. Clown's Day off fallacy. Yeah, well, I've got to go back there maybe, and I'll go down that pier again one day. Paul Wills says, that was a very nice group there, Ben, with a really nice setup that they have. David and his wife seem like great hosts. They're fantastic people. And you know what? I've seen them. I saw them again since. I've just come back from Pentac, and I told you that the Pentac incident would be my next movie. Well, it will be. It'll be very, very soon. I'll be uploading that, but I had to do this one first. But you know what? To be honest, they actually appear in that Pentac movie too. I saw them again a couple of days, just literally 2 days ago. Indeed, yesterday I saw them. So yeah, Paul Will says, seems like a good turnout you had, Ben. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Oh, by the way, another thing about the Pentac movie that's upcoming, I think you're going to enjoy it because there's a bit of an embarrassing moment in it for me, which I do report on. I'm not going to edit out, which I'm sure will give you a good chuckle, either in a nice or nasty way. Yeah. Paul Will says here on Ending the South, Ben, you definitely need to increase the size of your slides so you can make it easier for you to read. Just a thought. Okay, I actually did put them all on I meant to put them all on 1,000 pixels. I did. I haven't actually done them on that talk yet. So you're right. On my other talks, on some of my other talks, I've altered all of them to be 1,000 pixels wide. And Neil says we keep badgering to download the free LibreOffice where you can assemble a good presentation that is easy to see. Maybe that's not a bad idea, actually, Neil. Yeah, I mean, I tend to be, when it comes to technical side of things, there's a lot of inertia with me, which frustrates Neil a bit, I think. But, to be honest, unfortunately, I think a lot of the fact you couldn't see the slides properly is because it was actually the quality of my webcam. I need to get myself another tripod. Yes. Paul Wills says, well done, Neil. I agree with you. Love his talks. But he just needs to iron out a few details with regard to presentation. Neil says, next time he visits me, I will gaffer tape into a chair and force a presentation lesson of LibreOffice for him. All right. Oh, dearie me. Well, I've been gaffer taped to a few things in my time, It's usually with an attractive woman presence with a whip. Shouldn't tell you that. Ending the South. Ben, your Starmer impression always cracks me up. Oh, I'm glad, mate. I'm glad. Oh, he's written. Oh, this is written twice. And then John Nolan says his Miles Johnston Black Goo impression is better. Black Goo. I'm glad you enjoy that. It's Lewis. That's the name here. It's Lewis says, thanks for another amazing reportage, Ben. You're welcome, Lewis. Thanks for telling me who's there. And now we have a thread. It's a long thread, actually. Oh, it's on Ending the South. And it begins with the one, the only, Steve Mumbling, who says here, I've got to check out Steve's channel. I haven't looked at it in a while. Regurgitating a lot of science fiction rubbish with zero tangible evidence to support any of it, as usual. Doesn't your conscience bother you for filling their heads with this nonsense? They'll go and repeat it as truth, and then more people will be living in cloud cuckoo land. You're not doing them any favors. All right. Well, Steve, no, I don't think there is zero tangible evidence for it, and it's not science fiction rubbish. And for this reason, my conscience does not bother me for repeating it or talking to people about it, because if it would do, if I really thought it was rubbish, it would. I wouldn't want to. I would feel guilty about saying it. But you know what? I don't think it's rubbish, so I don't feel guilty. And David Smith says, was just about to come and say the same, lol. Was listening at work. Ben is far too sure of himself, considering he has zero evidence for all this guff. To be fair, though, I think many of them would likely believe almost anything if it fits with whatever woo-woo ideas they have. What's interesting, David was saying that he had a recent drop in a number of people showing up. Right. Well, the people who go are very high quality. There's a couple of serving police officers there. It's one of the reasons I couldn't turn the camera on the crowd. But I actually, it's interesting you said that at the end, because David, my particular show had the highest attendance in ages. Yeah. Steve says, with all the recent hype turning into FA and more people calling it BS every day, the great UFOtainment swindle, it's a good term, is rapidly turning into the great UFOtainment dwindle. Oh, God. Well, I think I could actually give myself a zero level cut with your razor sharp wit, Steve. When Burleson turns up more FA with his legacy site visits, the US government will write it off as science fiction rubbish and not waste any more time and money on it, just like the UK and Australian governments. All right. Well, Steve said this more than 2 weeks ago before Trump released his famous truth, which I told you about, his truth post, which I discussed in the most recent video. Oni Amiga says, yeah, they all think that beings with huge heads from some advanced civilization traverse the universe with their advanced craft only to suffer a blown gasket and crash in Roswell. Really? Well, Oni Amiga, are you actually saying that this advanced technology is perfect? A modern Tesla car can break down as an old Ford Model T can break down. Technology is not perfect. And Oni Amiga says, most folk find these topics interesting when we're kids. When we grow up, we learn to critically think and realize it's all BS, made up stories with zero evidence. Then again, some folk physically grow up but have no mental development. These are the poor people who still believe all this. It comes down to a lack of cerebral development. Prove me wrong. What do you mean? Prove you wrong? He says, prove me wrong at the end, all right? He says, prove me wrong. Okay, so let's have a look at what he's asserting here. When we grow up to learn and think critically, right, well, that's an unfalsifiable hypothesis because I don't know who you're making an assessment based on your own opinions of people's development, and then you're claiming that we don't believe in things with zero, we realize we don't believe it because it has zero evidence, yet you haven't provided any evidence. You then say some people physically grow up but have no mental development. Again, this is you're depending. This is your assessment of people who believe things that have no evidence for. Yet you haven't provided a reason why there's no evidence. You haven't discussed any particular subject, and then you say it's down to a lack of cerebral development because we believe things with zero evidence. Yet I say there is evidence for it. You don't dispute that, and then you say prove me wrong. I can't prove, Oni Amiga, I can't prove you wrong. You just made a post here with 4 sentences in, which is basically, firstly, your subjective assessment of various phenomena, depending on whether there's evidence or not for them, yet you don't discuss any specific phenomenon and assert its level or lack of evidence. And then you say, prove me wrong. Well, I can't prove you wrong. I can't prove you wrong. I can't, it's just a bit like you saying, well, I like the color blue. Prove me wrong. I like fish and chips with extra salt. Prove me wrong. I can't. See what I mean? Maybe you just don't understand your own lack of logic here. I can only suggest you don't. Oni Amiga says, he does seem happy talking about this nonsense to gullible folk. Rhetoric again? I'm surprised he's not joined a radio club to make antennas so he can call the ETs. Right, okay. Again, rhetoric. You're suggesting I'm a Stephen Greer believer, etc. CE5 protocols, man. All right. That's rhetoric. But as it happens, I have been on Skywatch, where people use the CE5 protocols. Yeah. But that's just a sort of rhetoric thing, really. David Smith says to Steve, mumbling, you could be right, but I'm not that optimistic. The world is definitely getting used to believing things rather than accepting reality. Look how the Orange Menace got into power. Fear and hate can generate a lot of unstable beliefs in people when politics and media take advantage. Before you know it, they're voting against their own interests, thinking the side offering more rights and freedoms want to do a deal with an alien race to enslave humanity. All right, well, I never thought that Kamala Harris has actually considered siding with aliens and wanting to enslave humanity through aliens. Maybe reptilians, but they're not technically aliens. But, the rest of it, again, is rhetoric. Also, by talking about Trump here, you're not including me in this because I've already told you that my support for Donald Trump was never unconditional, and indeed, I've explained. My journey through being pro-Trump to anti-Trump is very well documented on this channel, and I've discussed it several times. And I've explained to you exactly why I believe as I do when it comes to Trump. Trump has been an enormous disappointment, and I've said that quite clearly. So, I mean, this is an acceptance of reality on my part, and I think. So you can be optimistic with me. Fear and hate, I don't feel any of that. I feel some fear. I do hate certain people, but, I don't think it's led me to unstable beliefs. I think it's led me to accurate beliefs. Anyway, he continues. The constant lack of evidence for the conspiracy is just another conspiracy to believers. When people think like that, they're much easier to exploit. I don't get it. The constant lack of evidence for the conspiracy is just another conspiracy. Well, that's just another way of reiterating the burden of proof issue, and I've already addressed that. If I see evidence of a conspiracy, I'll say there's a conspiracy. If I see some phenomenon and there's no evidence for a conspiracy, I'll just say there's no evidence. But I don't think I've ever addressed something and I just say, well, I just feel that that's a conspiracy. I can just sense it and I'm not interested in discussing evidence. I don't think I've ever said that, David Smith. So whatever you're saying here, it doesn't apply to me. And Steve Mumbling says, Ben knows it's all rubbish. He must do because he has to lie about it, he said. Mark McCandlish, a free energy and alien reproduction vehicle bullshitter, shot himself in the back of the head twice. This adds drama as it suggests he was murdered for his secret knowledge. The fact is he shot himself once in the temple. Very obviously not murder. This takes all the intrigue out of it. He obviously killed himself. Ben calls himself a researcher. If he really doesn't know McCandless shot himself once in the temple, he's not much of a researcher, is he? And if he doesn't know, he's a bullshitter because he has to lie about it. Having to lie to support a crazy conspiracy theory should tell everyone it's bullshit. Well, how many times you use the word bullshit in that post, Steve? Don't you have a thesaurus? Can't you think of something else? You're normally more eloquent than that. Okay, about Mark McCandlish, yeah, I actually got him confused with somebody else. And so I made a mistake there. So you could have actually made that point in one sentence, and I'd have replied with one sentence instead of choosing all that rhetoric. But I do not believe, actually, that simply the nature, the modus operandi of his death actually means it wasn't murder. I don't think that is sure at all. I don't think that's the case at all. God, this thread is a bit boring. How much longer is it going to go on for? David Smith says, yeah, I actually listened at work all the way through. Oh, you got one of those jobs too. You got one of those jobs too, mate. Lucky. We are lucky, aren't we? I did chuckle at quite a few parts. It's very much a case of I get to insert my personal beliefs because what else could it be? Scenario. What, really? Claiming things to be factually true doesn't make them so. Ben may not like it, but science and peer review is the best method for telling fact from fiction. But he's very quick to dismiss that when it suits his narrative. Really, David? So I say I'm not interested because this doesn't suit my narrative. I'm not interested in the science of it. Really? Have I said that? I don't think so. I still say he's a believer, and I don't think he's dishonest in that sense. Oh, that's true. Yeah. I don't think he's a good presenter and speaker. Oh, thank you. I doubt he's doing much harm, as they're also into dowsing. The best part, in my opinion, was the alien implant question discussion. You don't have to tell a doctor you think you have an implant. You could simply say you think something might have gotten embedded there and you're worried, etc. A private x-ray isn't that expensive. Well, I actually think you would actually be in, if you went to your doctor saying you had something inside you, he'd want to know what it was. He'd say, how did it got there? Was it a splinter? Is it a bullet? Is it shrapnel? What is it? If you're talking about like a private x-ray where you go in and they just take one shot, it wouldn't be that much. I mean, last time I went to the dentist, I had one of those. But if you're talking about a CT scan or MRI, that's a lot more. The key takeaway for me is all the stories professed as good evidence only ever had witness claims, never any tangible proof of any kind, except occasional dodgy video. Well, obviously, I disagree with the last bit, David, because I believe there is good evidence, and it's not just witness testimony, and the videos are not all dodging. Steve Mumbling says here to David Smith, oh, we're nearly at the end, thank goodness. His blatant lie about Mark McCannless shooting himself in the back of the head twice clearly demonstrates he's dishonest. For the reasons best known to himself, he wants others to believe a lot of conspiracy nonsense. Well, it was a mistake. I made a mistake, Steve. I apologize. All right, especially to any of Mark's relatives who might have heard me say that. I very much apologize for you for that. All right. I mixed him up with someone else. David. Yeah, I was just looking into that. You're right, of course. My guess is Ben just said that as a flippant kind of joke towards how it was probably a cover-up because reasons. No, it was a mistake. I mixed him up with someone else. Conspiracy after conspiracy. Nothing is ever as it seems unless it fits the narrative. Then it's exactly how the media and experts say it is. Very much an exercise in the usual cherry picking. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, nothing as it seems unless it fits the narrative. Then it's exactly how the media and experts say it is. So if the mainstream media says something and it agrees with our narratives, we say it's true. But it's not because the mainstream media said that. We have other reasons for saying that before the mainstream media say it. So this is why I say things like, well, they're saying it now because they have to. For example, the V-word injuries, the UFOs, the Epstein files, things like that. Yeah, it's fitting the narrative, therefore, but that's not the reason we think it's true. That's just a sign that maybe the secrecy is not as easy to keep as it used to be. So it's not an exercise in cherry picking at all. And David says to Only Amiga, well, he believes he has one implanted in his arm. That's my implant. David Splendid Isolation. Finally, a woo-woo is coming in to back me up. David says to Steve, mumbling, have your steaming piles cleared up yet, Steve? Keep applying the cream. Nice one. Nice one, David. Nice one, mate. I like that. All right, let's move on from that rather boring thread. Reply to comments 1, 2, 3. What's this here? Right, this is a timestamp here from Red Ibex. I'm not sure if that was the right thing. I think it was so close to when he died. I mean, I probably did it too soon. Maybe it was just like a week after he died. And you can't really argue with people when it's that close. Right, this is to do with Colin Snugs. Yeah, this is to do with Beats Art. Will I repost a tribute? I don't know. Probably not. I feel like that opportunity's gone now. I don't. It's now. These things are kind of have like a schedule. Same with Marcus. It's like this is why I didn't do a special live stream about Marcus because I felt enough time had gone past and I'd already covered it on HPANWO Radio. So I just added it as a little extra section of another video, a mini feature. Yeah. But it's I'm glad you understand these things, Red Ibex. Definitely. I feel that the family weren't really fair to me. But you can't really question people when it's that soon after the person died. Red Ibex says, R.I.P. Eric von Daniken. Yeah, he made a lot of mistakes. I didn't agree with everything, but goodness me, he shifted the Overton window, didn't he, Eric von Daniken? Back in the 60s, he was making people think thoughts about other things, and it's probably a lot. I reckon a lot of the interest in ancient mysteries, UFOs, etc., completely corollary to the whole ancient aliens theory, are very much because of him. Right, Chingle Hall, Red Ibex says, I went there. It's a timestamp, but it's all right. I know what he's talking about. This is in 123. I went there in 1994 as a child. The haunting is real. Right, oh, really? What did you see? Maybe I will click the timestamp just to check. I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I'd be curious to see the place. I really would after what that lady told me about it. What she told us all about it, about the ghosts and things there. I'd be very, very curious. Oh, right. I see. Right. Yeah. Yes, I would. I would like to go there. I think I'd like to go there. I mean, I do hope it is open to the public again. Red Ibex says 123. Is Brideshead Revisited a favourite show of yours? I remember it being very good. I remember it pretty good. I remember it's sort of set in the early 20th century. I remember there's several scenes in the Great War. There's these young guys who go around. They got a teddy bear, and they go around and they have a teddy bear in the back of their car. Brideshead Revisited. Here we are. Novel by Evelyn Waugh. Okay, all right, yeah. And it's made into a TV series. I've got an Evelyn Waugh novel back there. It's his first novel, which is set in Oxford. It's very interesting. There was a very TV. There was a famous. This was a highly acclaimed TV adaptation, which I thought was actually pretty good. 1981 British television serial, and I remember it. I don't remember. As I said, I just remember the World War One scenes, and I remember the guys with a teddy bear. And I think some of it was in Oxford. And they were driving around with this teddy bear in the back of their car. But I remember it being quite good. It was a long time ago I saw it. I mean, I'm talking like 20 years or more when I was quite young. Yeah. But I think it was. I remember it being quite good. It had a good like theme tune, la 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 la, kind of like a classical music theme tune, la 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 la. Yeah, 123 red ibex. Again, who says here? 22031. What's this then? 4 miles through farmers' fields and small woodlands until I rejoin on a country lane and then back on the canal onto the canal. There are human inhabitants on this route, only very small farmers' residences. Oh, that was you talking about. I remember you were talking about your own walk. Yes, and he says, "Could you ever go rural or remote, Ben?" Yes, I think I could. I think I could quite happily live in a less populated area than I live now, so long as I had the ability to keep doing HPANWO, that is, good internet connection. I'd need that. And I need somewhere comfortable to live so I could have all my stuff. As long as I have, I mean, I wouldn't go and live in a gypsy caravan or anything like that. I mean, I'm not that desperate to get out into the countryside, but I think I would like to live in the countryside. You know, when I was doing this like residential job, when I was away for a week, it was in this lovely little place in this town near Oxford, and in this with these farms and there's these fields. And it's just lovely. I had a great time. But I miss being online. I mean, they did have Wi-Fi, but it wasn't good enough for me to do HPANWO. Yeah. But yes, I could under those circumstances, Red Ibex. 123, Red Ibex. If Bigfoot was admitted, would you support protectionist law similar to Swans? I not only would support it, I would insist on it. As I said to Ronnie LeBlanc when I met him at Stairway to the Stars. And you explain here, when I say Bigfoot admitted, I mean the government admitted it exists, not Bigfoot being sectioned. Oh, right, yeah, I understand. You're essentially saying a disclosure moment for Bigfoot. Yeah. I would insist on it because it's the only way to preserve it. I mean, let's face it, we don't know how many there are. For all we know, they could be critically endangered. And for it to be released, unless it's in North America, and let's face it, I mean, no offense to my American viewers, but Americans being Americans, what's the first thing they're going to do when they find out it exists? They are going to get their double-barrel shotgun out of the cupboard, and they're going to go into the woods determined to be the first one to bag one for the shelf. Before you know it, 1,000 of them might be dead, and they could be extinct. I said this to Ronnie himself, who is American, and he understood this. He understood my concerns. So, yeah, I absolutely would insist. I would support that 100%. Right, 1, 2, 3, and we have Red Ibex, who says here, right, there's a timestamp here, oops, which I will right-click. We're nearly through the second hour, and we've still got quite a long way to go. This is going to be at least to verify user's age. As soon as it's 13, how do you judge whether someone's 13 or not? He says, ask Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Yes. He bloody knows, doesn't he? Good comment, mate. Good comment. Very witty. Yeah. Oh, and Professor Unwin says here, Batty Andriel Windbag suddenly grew glandy sweat loads. A fancy most to the nostrils. Shirt all soaky there. It's a miracle. Yes. All right. Ending the South, Paul Wills says here, another great reportage. Although the weather wasn't good, really appreciate your walk around about footage. Great talk as always. Look forward to your next adventure. Cheers, mate, and thanks for all your efforts. You're very welcome, Paul. I'm glad you enjoyed it. There has been another adventure since then. It's the one I've just come back from, Penturch, the 10th anniversary. And the weather also wasn't, in fact, the weather couldn't have been worse, quite frankly. But as you'll see, I had a good time, apart from a rather embarrassing moment, which you will no doubt find amusing when you watch the video. Yeah. But I'm not going to edit it out. I'm determined to put it in there. So no holds barred with me. I hide nothing. Well, almost nothing. A few things I hide. Not this. Sorenable says on Ending the South, well done, Ben. Thanks, Sorenable. Glad you enjoyed that, mate. I hope we go back there. 1, 2, 3, Red Ibex. If time travel was an option, if time travel was an option, would you do it and where would you go? Right. If time travel was an option, yeah, as long as I could come back to where I started, like, and the Doctor could drop me off in the TARDIS or something, I'd go all over the place. I mean, the first place I'd probably go is back to the, well, you can probably guess, back to the Boudica Rebellion to see the last moment of Britain in its pre-Illuminati state and talk to Her Majesty herself. And, yeah, that's what I would do. And say that obviously I need a translator because you'd be speaking Celtic, a language which doesn't exist anymore. I need some kind of special translator, probably a computer or something. But yeah, that's what that's the first place I would go. But I'd go to lots of other places as well. I'd go and see the future, see what it was like. But again, this is hypothetical because time travel of that kind is not possible. It's any more than 2 + 2 could equal 5. Time travel really can't happen in that sense. The only time travel is possible according to Einstein's famous 1905 paper from the front into from the past, from the present to the future. Yeah. Bluebeam says on 1, 2, 3, Sabine Hossenfelder appeared in the Steam files. I am shocked, Ben. Well, I'm sure Michael Shrimpton is not shocked, but actually she did do a little video explaining why she was in those files, and it just seemed to be quite innocent. There doesn't seem to be anything suspicious about it. It was simply a lot of scientists appear in there, including very famous ones like Kevin Knuth, Stephen Hawking, Richard Dawkins. Well, I don't know about Richard Dawkins. Maybe we should think twice about him. But certainly the other scientists, the physicists, like Sabine and the others, they were actually in the files for different reasons. This is why Trump's presence in the files is not that dodgy, because Trump basically just got a lift on his plane from Miami to New York. In the same way, Sabine and Stephen Hawking and Kevin Knuth and these other people, Kip Thorne and these other people, they were in the files because they did special scientific lectures for him, because he was very into that sort of thing. So I don't think there's any. I did actually say to Sabine, people don't just react because. Please don't just react because you see their name there. Just think about what's the context in which they appear in those files. You know what I mean? Disclosure Day trailer live stream. And Neil Peel says, first to the repeat of the live stream. Well done, Neil. I think you get two gold tinfoil hats there. Firstly, for appearing in the live stream and taking part in the live chat. And secondly, being the first comment on the recording. Yeah. Same video. And Rob Costello. Oh, Cole Costello. Hello, Cole. How are you? Nice to see you back again. How are we doing for time? I think this is nearly through the second hour. Sounds similar to the prawns from the District 9 film. Right, I've not seen District 9. What's that like? District 9. All right. Because I've heard about it. 2009 film. American New Zealand film, a science fiction action movie written by Neil Blomkamp. Based on the short film by his short film called Alive in Joburg. A mock documentary. Oh, I like those. Featuring fictional interviews in an alternative history of Johannesburg, South Africa, where some insectoid aliens. Oh, right. And they're put in a concentration camp. That's interesting, right? That does sound interesting indeed. The prawns, I suppose, are the aliens. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right. Oh, it's an old one now. Syntheos 3 porters. You can't take them anywhere. This is one of the videos that was used to sack me. And David Charlotte has commented with a load of laughter emojis. Now, David Charlotte, he appears in that film, and he is a brother porter, Pride and Dignity brother. He is a brother porter from the John Radcliffe. Yeah, he is. So, well, thank you, brother porter. Good to see you. Hope the service is doing well. Say hello to my esteemed brothers and sisters for me, will you? Okay, so that's the end of hour number 2. I'll be back shortly. I think this is going to go over 3 hours, definitely. It's to be expected after the long gap. But I hope you're all bearing with me and enjoying yourselves. See you shortly. All right, guys, here we go. Hour number 3. And we have Ending the South. And Melvin Sherman says Epstein Files is real-life lizard people. I'm sure a lot of them are, yeah. I'm sure a lot of them are. And Melvin Sherman says, about to say it Erica Kirk is like the real life lizard people. I've been wondering about her behavior, actually. Yeah. Oh, that's on Disclosure Day trailer live stream. People have said like she's kind of like acting weird, like saying she forgives the killer and stuff like that. To be honest, I've not looked into it enough. I mean, it just perhaps possibly have vibes of Brendan Cox after Joe Cox got murdered, things like that. Certain other situations in various schools, the parents, It's not proof, but you know what I mean. It's something to be concerned about. Yeah. It's Lewis who's back again on Ending the South, saying, "Wait, Ben is an ex-hospital porter. First time hearing this. Lol." Yes. Do remind me to remind you. I've mentioned this a few times, haven't I? Yeah. Disclosure Day trailer live stream, and we have here, it's Lewis. Pride and dignity, brother. Pride and dignity to you, brother. And we have here Professor Unwinmost says, punch at the Sky Bowl for D. Hawley Richloader. Yes. Punch at the Sky Bowl. Punch the it's punch in the air. Punch in the air. I was near there actually. The Royal Mint. Yeah. You'll find that in my next video. Right, and Ending the South again. Okay, so I'm not gonna. I think I know what he's going to say here. He makes a comment about Mark McCandlish, which I've already addressed. Right, which I've already addressed. And I'm not convinced. I am still suspicious of it, but obviously I made a mistake there and I mixed it up with something else. And Steve asks here, why would you publicly state a different version, suggesting sinister or more sensational circumstances? Because I got him mixed up with someone else, Steve. I'm not apologizing again. All right, I've done that enough now. Move on. But then Steve Polish says here, this is what ADs, Apollo detectives, do with Apollo. Randy Walsh is notorious for dismissing the official version of anything related to manned moon landings. But this is because he presents and rejects pieces of that narrative which do not reflect the truth. Walsh, quote, Apollo 13 couldn't possibly navigate by lining up the Earth's terminator with the window grid, unquote. They didn't. They corrected their shallow approach angle using the crew optical alignment sight, not the landing point designator scale on the window. Course corrections for more precise positioning follow this manual burn, and it wasn't even unique to Apollo 13. It had been tried on Apollo 8. Walsh, quote, after the near disaster of Apollo 6, no further flight or static testing was done with the F1 engines, unquote. Right. This came up last time, didn't it? When I talked about the Apollo 7 abort to orbit or whatever it was happened. Except there was. Helium suppression systems were tested on the full-scale static stage burn prior to Apollo 8's launch. This is the Saturn V stage and test record. Walsh, quote, no mention of how Apollo and the guidance computer cope with mass cons. That's mass concentrations of gravity, I think that means. Incorrect. Mass cons were factored into all missions to the moon. Navigation updates for mass cons appear in the transcripts measured on Apollo 8 and the J mission launch sub-satellites, especially to measure mass con influence. Aside from that, lunar orbits were elliptical specifically to buffer mass con influence. Yeah, that's to do with like the different levels of gravity in different parts of the moon, which are not all the same. So orbiting the moon would be a bit more difficult to stay on altitude. Okay, well, Randy's not here to explain this. This is kind of if this was on a particular video where Randy was in, like one of the Apollo detectives mirrors that I did, then feel free to say which one it was. I'm not familiar with this information, so I could neither agree nor disagree with it. I'll say it again, Ben. It's only people repeatedly and consistently caught lying about Apollo are the people saying it never happened. You have at times repeated false statements by the ADs, and once again, you're caught telling fibs publicly about a woo-woo. Okay, again, I'm not repeating what I've said before about Mark McCandlish, and I'm not apologizing again. All right. How does this keep happening? Well, I don't know what you mean. How does what keep happening? That I make mistakes and I admit them? That you bring up information I have no knowledge of and don't have the ability off the top of my head to contradict or confirm or deny? Why does that keep happening? I've explained why it keeps happening. I should ask the question, why does it keep happening that you make points, you make comments here, which I'm quite happy for you to do, and I'm quite happy to reply to, yet you still have this strange idea that I'm what's the word? Was it you who said it? Apologies if it was someone else, but I'm quitting the special pleading fallacy. I think it was David, actually. And then Oni Amiga says, you don't really think that any of these UFO conspiracy folk have evidence or care about telling the truth, do you? They live in their own isolated little world, talking about the silly things they believe with zero evidence for everything. They have absolutely nothing, but I guess it makes them feel important and mysterious to talk this nonsense to those gullible enough to lap it up. Oh, right, okay. So we have another piece of cast iron logic here from Oni Amiga. Let's paraphrase it, shall we? I just want you to try and understand. Trying to reach you here, Oni Amiga, and make you understand your mistake. Okay, do you really think any of these 2 + 2 = 4 believers have any evidence or care about telling the truth, do you? They live in their own little isolated world, talking about all the silly things like 2 + 2 = 4. They believe with zero evidence for everything. They have absolutely nothing, but I guess it makes them feel important and mysterious to talk this nonsense. Those gullible people those gullible enough to lap it up, they don't realize that 2 + 2 = 5. And I can prove it by using lots of rhetoric and all kinds of very eloquent insults against those who think 2 + 2 = 4. Do you see? Look up ad hominem. Look up poisoning the well. Look, this is just rhetoric. It's meaningless rhetoric. That's all it is. Moving on. Right. 1, 2, 3. Professor Unwin-Most. Oh dear. Choppily packed deep loader. Deepak Chopra here, with his quantrail gibbery wordage, has been gathered the air mileage on Epstreel's Lita-Low Expressi. Oh, has he? All right. Oh, Deepak Chopra is he in the files? Let's have a look. Because let's want to see let's have a look here. I'm just going to Google this quickly. Because I mean, I wouldn't have thought he'd be kind of the type. I'm going to just wait for this page to load. I'm just reading this thing here about District 9, which looks interesting. Let's have a look, shall we? Chopra. Epstein. Oh, it is. Let's have a look. Yeah. I'll go to AI. Shall I go to? Fuck, here we go. It says here, frequency of contact. These documents reveal an extensive and intimate friendship between the wellness guru Deepak Chopra and Jeffrey Epstein that lasted from at least 2016 until his arrest. Frequency of contact. He's mentioned over 3,000 times. Controversial remark. In a 27 exchange, Chopra wrote, God is a construct. Cute girls are real? Oh my God, that is worrying. All right, Epstein asked him to find a cute Israeli blonde. Chopper said, warning, they are militantly aggressive and very sexy. Was he? Bloody hell. Now this stuff is worrying, isn't it? This is not like Sabine's Hossenfelder. This is not like what she said. Deepak Chopra said that acknowledging the emails reflected a poor judgment in tone, but denying any involvement in criminal exploitative conduct. He was unaware of the scale of Epstein's activity at the time and expresses deep sadness for the victims. Well, I don't. There's not enough there to convict someone. But personally, if I was investigating this, if I was a detective investigating this, I would be interviewing Deepak Chopra. I really would. I didn't know that, man. That's concerning, very concerning indeed. And well. People can make offhand comments and even like rather bawdy comments with other guys, but when you've considering the fact that he did have a conviction that Chopra must have known about, that is inappropriate to say the least. And I can't look at I've never been a big Deepak Chopra fan anyway, but I don't think I can look at him the same way now. I really can't. Anyway, Ben Emlyn-Jones live at the Swindon Rabbit Hole. This was a good one. I enjoyed this. Be careful, says Professor Unwin-Most. Be careful when you trickly how to the far flummery corns of these shanty bowls. Some beal might take a shy load to your bocus. all take it and follop it up the Kaibold. Right. I think what he means here, Professor Emlyn-Jones, is that I should be very careful when I visit salubrious parts of town, in case somebody might think I'm standing on the street corner offering something and then decide to take it without paying. Yeah, it's a good point, although I think when it comes to salubrious parts of town, all of Swindon is a salubrious part of Swindon. That's the thing. Okay, ending the South, Steve Polish says here, a chap called Nikola Tesla wanted to build an electric car, and he worked closely with Ford, but his production line was shut down, unquote. I can't find evidence of Tesla working with Westinghouse. I can find evidence of Tesla working with Westinghouse, but not Ford. Perhaps you could clarify about this production line and what it was producing, Ford or Tesla. Hopefully this will involve something other than I don't have the time to dig out the details, which usually infers you're making it up or relying on apocryphal hearsay with no foundation. All right, well, I think I'm sorry you really not consider that my response actually reasonable, considering the fact I'm actually in the middle of producing a video called Reply to Comments, and you think that I don't have time to dig out the details is somehow an inadequate excuse? Because, what would you like me to do? Pause what I'm doing now and find this out? I do remember saying that. I also remember reading about it somewhere, and again, yeah. But what more do you want? I mean, maybe it is apocryphal, but please, could perhaps you should. Is there a reason to think that this didn't happen? I know that's a burden of proof thing, but could you explain? Is it possible that Ford did do this? Is it possible that Ford people at that time, the early 20th century, were saying things like, "If I can't put a meter on it, I don't want it," and that was like, was that Rockefeller or which one was that? But someone involved in this. I think it might have been J.P. Morgan who said that. David Splendid's Isolation said this in reply. Electric cars from many manufacturers failed in the market over 100 years ago for many of the same reasons people don't like EVs and choose to go with internal combustion today, chiefly charging inconvenience and range anxiety. There's about, and David says there's about 5,000% more energy in a pound of petrol than a pound of battery. Back then it was a no-brainer. And internal, let's read more, combustion won out. The thing is, David, you got to realize that Tesla was going to get around that by producing an electric vehicle that didn't need batteries and didn't need charging. That's the point. Anyway, David continues. The main reason that electric cars finally have their prevalence on the road today is because they've been artificially forced and injected into the market due to the CO2 climate scare agenda. Correct. And again, consumers are now rejecting EVs for the same old problems. Some manufacturers in the car industry are panicking after making a commitment to go EV and are only starting to backpedal. The happy medium that companies like Toyota have adapted is now the ubiquitous hybrid, where the battery aids the petrol engine and the petrol engine charges the battery, the best of both worlds. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of hybrids. I know a lot of people who have hybrids. The buses in Oxford are hybrids. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And we have Professor Emlyn-Jones. Important most to clarify the wordage. Oh, yes. Now, many peeploads say, hospital portaloo, pridely dignifold, deep folly. What do you mean deep folly? The correcors designale, as per the textile bookloaders, the texty bookloaders, for our Falstaffe Benloader is pridely dignifold ODO. You're most welcome. Don't you ODO me, Professor. I don't know how do you swear in on one knees and get really angry? Well, I know what pentaload means. And if anyone who tries to force me to say the ODO word is a complete and total pentaload head. Those I know this is I've had a rant about this before, but even though I got sacked in 2012, I almost got sacked how many years earlier was it? 2005, I think it was, over this issue, which I've talked about on my St. Theo's videos. Don't you ODO me. Yeah, okay, here we go. So we have Steve Polish says on Ending the South. Quote, this is the face on Mars. Do you remember this? Now, according to the skeptics, this is just a strangely shaped hill. It happens to look like a face. It's through pareidolia we see a face in the same way we see faces in the clouds and wood knots. and on planks and things like that. It's not really a sculpture. It's not made by intelligence, but of course it is, unquote. Because that's, and then Steve says, because that's based on the woo-woo standard of, well, it's obvious in it, or published evidence with some observed details of physical intelligent actions being described therein. All right, dear. Oh man, the thing about it is, if only I'd worded this differently, you wouldn't have made this comment, because you want me to explain why it is. Oh man, I mean, if I'd had more time, I'd have gone into more detail about the face on Mars. But it is a sculpture. I believe it is artificially created, as the other objects around it are. This is because, I mean, it's not just the face itself, it's the other objects around it, the various pyramids, five-sided pyramids, things like that, the various other artificial structures. Okay, that's why I say, of course, it is. Well, it's obvious in it. Is okay. Well, that. It is obvious, but there's a reason behind that. Without using the pseudo Essex accents, appropriately, I was in Essex. But anyway, Steve says here, you are the skeptic with the mistrust of mainstream explanations, Ben. Well, maybe in one way, that is exactly what I am, yeah. So having qualified what pareidolia is, it's incumbent on you to qualify why you made a flat assertion about the face being something other than that. Well, as I said, you know, time constraints meant I couldn't really go into details of this whole idea. Other people have done this. The title of my talk was A History of Exopolitics, okay, which goes into all kind. I had to cover a whole load of issues to this. I didn't have time to read out Sir Eric Gary's speech to the United Nations, even though the transcript exists, and things like that. It was simply brevity that was the problem here. It was simply the need to be concise, is why I didn't go into that detail about this flat assertion. Yeah, I suppose the thing is, I thought you were going to say something like, well, this is a NASA photograph, and now you do trust NASA, do you? Now you trust them, do you? Well, I could have added, well, no, I don't trust NASA, because it was actually it took a huge amount of campaigning to get the re-imaging of this area in the 1990s with the Mars Global Observer. I mean, the original craft failed in 1993. This was followed by another craft which took photographs which had been described as the kitty litter photo. They were deliberately distorted to make them look non-artificial. One wonders why NASA needs to do that. And eventually, after a lot of cajoling and pressure, NASA provided high-resolution images of the area. Why were they so reluctant? David Smith says, I remember reading about the face on Mars. When higher-res photographs were released years later, they claimed NASA had fired nukes at it. It's always a conspiracy to explain the lack of evidence. Well, I didn't claim that, David. The high-resolution images were actually very revealing and actually support our side. They actually support our side of the story, I believe. David Smith says, David Splendid Isolation says to David Smith. At first, the release David is making the same point as me. The cat box image of it, which hadn't been properly processed, and it looked a mess. Later, after complaint, they released the processed image and still retained a somewhat face-like appearance, much less so than the Viking images from the 1970s. It is probably pareidolia, but obviously some researchers believe it's a very ancient, has lost its form and beauty. Well, yeah, I mean, you must realize these structures are not millions of years old, they're billions of years old. These are structures older than even the most ancient natural landscapes on Earth. So even in the thin atmosphere of Mars and without an atmosphere, they are eroded by the elements slowly but surely. But you see, even despite that, I mean, it's pretty clear that these high-resolution images, you see much more detail, and it actually supports our side of the story. David Smith, yeah, but they ain't researchers, haha. I think believers would be more accurate. And David Smith said here, they keep getting caught in corners while making circular and contradictory arguments. Some classics follow, which are paraphrased but accurate. Quote, NASA hide and obscure curious things, suggesting intelligent life in their photo, unquote. Yes, I do think they do that, and until they're eventually forced into that position, because it would just look too suspicious for them to keep refusing. Voyager discovered the face, and NASA described it as a high rock formation resembling a head. Actually, it was actually Viking that discovered it, not Voyager. Voyager was a deep space probe. The woo-woos seem not to know about this Gale crater smiley face discovered by the MRO on the same planet, or the bear face, or the spider, or the cat on Jupiter's moon Io. I do know about those things, even though I'm a woo-woo, but those things are obviously pareidolia. I mean, I know you have to have like a kind of like, I've always said we skeptics and believers need to get together, have a summit about where we set the threshold, the statistical ceiling, where we decide where the coincidence line ends. All right, but I believe it should be set high above this particular evidence. I believe that the face and these other things is above that line, but the Gale crater smiley face and those other things are below it. Quote, NASA had Thomas Barron and Apollo 1 crew killed because of their revelations and criticisms, unquote. But Bill Casey published a book apparently details NASA's fakery, and he died of old age. Well, yeah, thing is, he wasn't an astronaut, and to have done him in would have been a bit suspicious. You know, they could say, well, Bill Casey, he died a moida. Maybe there's something. Maybe we need to go out and read that book. Maybe we should go and order it, should we? Yeah. Quote, NASA claimed the Artemis radiation data, but it reveals the VAB to be impossible, unquote. They didn't. This is a Randy Walsh lie, while Jarrah White says they just misrepresented the data. All right, well, I haven't finished reading the article yet. But again, you've got to ask the question: how did they know so much about the VA, the Van Allen belts back then? How did they know so much? How did they know what we know later on? Quote: NASA didn't even static test the F1 engines. Again, all right, we've already covered that about the F1 engines and Apollo 6. And Bill Casey spotted the false data. This is Walsh again, except they did. Okay, the helium suppression, we've done that. These are the people who claim we've done the research, the same people who don't trust anything the government says, but who now hang on every word related to disclosure and anything a congressional committee publishes about aliens, alien tech in hangars, and who talk so casually about various alien species with benign and or sinister mood swings. Well, all right, this is what people are saying. Why do you trust the government? Why do you trust Lou Elizondo? Well, I don't necessarily. But why do you think now but you see, this is like the backslapper argument here. I mean, you're a skeptic, not a backslapper. But this is the principal backslapper line. You know, you trust the government. You don't. Why do you trust them over this age? Why do you trust these congressional committees? Well, has it occurred to you that maybe disclosure is actually happening? That's why I trust them. Has it occurred to you that people like Anna Pauline and Luna and Eric Burleson being speaking about this means that the truth embargo is failing? You see, you backslap. I know you're not a backslapper, but the backslappers, they have this weird idea that the New World Order, the Illuminati, are like all powerful, all knowing, and they never make mistakes and they never fail. Well, maybe they are. Maybe that's why this is happening. Unchallenged lies become other people's truths. Rhetoric. They all sit there and soak it up without showing or demanding credible evidence. Rhetoric hinges on sensational hearsay, reckless dishonesty. Rhetoric. No comments. All right. So let's go here. Right, here we have Davis blends isolation. Thank goodness. On ending the South. And it's a timestamp.
Like a C3PO. Yes, it is. Without the gold, without the silver leg. It's all silver.
Do you remember C3PO?
Cue the Mandela effect. No silver leg.
That was C3PO at to the South. Yeah. I didn't want to film everyone in there. I have the camera kind of.
Who's this fella? Like a C3PO. Yes, it is. Without the golden, without the silver leg.
That's right, yeah.
Silver.
That was fun, wasn't
Cue the Mandela.
And David Spends Isolation says, Ben, no doubt you've seen the photograph taken on the surface of the moon during an excursion of C3PO's head in a crater. Others have called it Data's head. Thoughts? I don't think it's real. I think it is. This is another example of something that falls below the line, the cutoff point where I would set the boundaries of coincidence. It falls below that. Again, this is something we and the skeptics need to get together and agree this, to stop these ridiculous, oh, it's just a coincidence, everything's a coincidence, etc. ideas. alternatively, whoa, I've just seen there's obviously there's a C-3PO's head, therefore C-3PO's on the moon, therefore some astronaut dropped it there. We need to avoid both these errors, I think. David Splendid Isolation says on ending the South, they should call it onomatopoeia. Sorry, onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia it means words like bang, pop, zing. It's words that sound like sounds. It's a word to describe sounds that sound like the sound they're producing. David, you must have been on a spliff when you said that. You wrote that. You must have been. Don't worry, mate. I mean, I'm like I said to David Splendid Isolation, the more, if you can laugh at something that other people don't, you've got an advantage over them. Whereas I can laugh at Unwinnies and David Splendid Isolation gets all Karen-y about it. Winslow Burdett says here on Ending the South, great video, Ben, and a great talk. I really like the way you document your adventure from start to finish. I look forward to more. Hey, thanks, Winslow. You're very welcome. There's another one coming soon. Steve Polish says on Ending the South. Linda Napolitano, quote, this abduction may well have had an independent witness. That's very rare for alien abduction. All right, this is, again, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Javier Perez de Cuellar, Secretary General, ex-Secretary, just stepped down to office, never commented on this. Steve says, I have to pick up on the opening and ending part of your talk, that the incident may well have had an independent witness. Surely it did or didn't, and then the claim that the former Secretary General never commented on it. He did. All right. The reason I said, you say surely it did or didn't. Yes, it did or didn't. I know it did or didn't, but it's not actually proven that he did or didn't. You see what I mean? This is why I say it might possibly have had an independent witness. Okay, that's what I meant there. So yeah, surely it did or didn't, but I don't know that. I thought you'd be pleased. I'm leaving the door open to falsifiability. So did Javier Perez de Cuellar comment on this? Okay. And he says here, why would you leave out the fact that no witnesses have been identified and that Javier Perez de Cuellar said, okay, quote, I cannot but strongly deny the claim that I have had an abduction experience at any time. I reiterated that these allegations were completely false, and I hope that this statement will definitely put an end to these unfounded rumors, unquote. Why only half the story, Ben? Well, the answer is because I didn't know the other half of the story. That's the answer, simple as that. But this is an interesting statement here. What's he referring to? I cannot but strongly claim that I have strongly denied the claim that I have had an abduction experience at any time. Right. No one is saying that Perez de Cuellar actually had an abduction experience. No one's saying that. The claim is that he actually witnessed a woman in New York being abducted. That's the claim. Okay. Now, so do we know he's referring to Linda here? Is it to Linda's experience? I mean, I don't know. Linda died actually a couple of weeks ago. I put a little tribute on a HPANWO voice for her. I mean, she was 70. She was like pretty old. She was 70 something. But I was sad still. I was sad because I liked her. I knew her on Facebook. But the point is that firstly, we're not referring to his abduction experience, should he have had one. Secondly, is he telling the truth here? I mean, Admiral Thomas Wilson claims that Eric Davis is talking rubbish, but as Richard Dolan says, we shouldn't take his denial at face value. Should we take this guy's denial at face value when you consider he's a former Secretary General of the United Nations? And thirdly, I didn't know about this, so there's your answer. Loose ends first, says Red Ibex. Well done, Red. How are we getting on? This might... We might just end this despite what I said, we might just end this inside the third hour. Loose ends. Daniel Bostock. Hey, Daniel, I haven't seen you for ages, mate. Dan, it's Dan himself. Daniel Bostock says, you're pulling my leg right now. I'm only a minute in, mind you. A loose end after an announcement of biblical proportions on your subject matter. Right. The reason was, I mean, firstly, the title, when I came up with the idea of the title Loose Ends, and I realized the video is about tying up loose ends, which I didn't tie up in other videos. And then also, And then also the announcement about was to do with things that came up since then, such as Trump and him talking about this, and of course, and Randy Andy being arrested. So that's what I meant. Hope that clarifies, mate. Hope you're doing okay. Still making some cool songs. Yay. Daniel Bolstock now says YouTube ads drive me insane. Oh god, they do, don't they? I mean, they're so annoying. Like, oh, what's this? Dum 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 dum. There's that song, and there's it costs nothing to sell on eBay, so I sold it. Oh god, they're infuriating, aren't they? Yeah. Oh, it's not the ads themselves that are the problem. It's the bloody context, isn't it? DJ said underneath, they're meant to, so you buy premium. Yeah, I think that's why. Of course, I think maybe that's the objective, DJ. Only Amiga says, then use the Brave browser, no ads. All right, well, I mean, people have suggested just use a browser with an ad blocker or add an ad blocker to this. The problem with using ad blockers is they just put more ads onto their platform, because they're not getting as much revenue because more people are using ad blockers. And eventually what they'll do is they'll just start make the whole platform premium, and then you have to pay to use it all again anyway. I mean, there's even rumors that YouTube are going to do that at some point, or they might start like cutting your catalog down so you can't back up your videos for more than a year or something like that. So no, I'm not going to use an ad blocker. I'll put only Amiga. I think the only option is to like put up with it and moan about it. That's the thing. Loose Ends DJ B2 says, perhaps a general live stream discussing current events like the Trump UFO disclosure or non-skate, etc. Well, DJ, as you know, I've done exactly that. So you're quite right. You didn't give me the idea, by the way, but you know, maybe you did subconsciously. Maybe I just spotted it. I may have spotted your comment in my peripheral vision subconsciously, and you gave me the idea. Only Amiga says there's absolutely nothing to disclose. It's just something that the UFO true believers want to happen, but it won't. Well, you're wrong there. And Red Ibex says disclosure. That's not exactly a new topic. I know, Red. I know. And according to Steve Bassett, it's always going to be in 6 months. But yeah, I know it's not a new topic. People have been talking about disclosure since the 1950s, but still, progress has been made, hasn't it? I mean, things have moved. Things have been moving in this particular field in a way they have never done before. I mean, if it hadn't been for everything that's been happening in the last 10 years, I might just thought, to hell with it. I'm not going to bother with it anymore. Yeah. Red Ibex says to David Smith, it's as if you have a book, talk, or podcast to sell. Dearie me. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so annoyed with you, David Smith, that I'm going to hide my face. Yes, I am. I found a convenient thing just lying here to hide my face. Yes, I'm so upset by what you said. I'm so upset. I need to wipe my nose on something. There you go. Yes, I do. Oh, yes. That's better. Right. That's better. That's better. I'm disgusted. Okay, DJ B2 on loose ends. The Euro Lottery and TUI ads are bloody no. They are, aren't they? Which one? I don't know which ones they are. I mean, I try not to pay attention to them. Funny if there was one, right, that I... Believe it or not, right, this is another reason not for using ad blocker. I found one that was vaguely entertaining the other day. It was this one. Where is it? Let me just show you. Yeah, this one. Where are we now? What was it called? It's Arlo advert. Here we go. It's this milk substitute. Now, I don't believe in milk substitutes because... Oh, whoops, hang on, gaming. No, I want all. What's this? All, that's it, all. Where is it? Oh, what's happening now? Let's go back. I'm going to go back. Oh, this is annoying when this happens. Arlo advertisement. Here we go. Oh, where is it? What's that? Oh, Arla. Is it Arla with an A? Arla, not Arlo. It's Arla. That's it. Here we are. Now look, this is.
Everybody's free to feel good,
Yeah, it goes. I won't play the whole thing, but I put a comment on it. Oh, you can't see it there, but there's one where I put a comment on it that says everything. Where is it? Oh, I can't find it now. Is it this one? Was that the one I just saw? No, was it this one?
Everybody.
Yeah. Here we go. I said, who else reached for the skip button on this and then stopped? That was me. So that's an exception. That is a strangely watchable advert. No, I mean it contains a really really great song by, was it Inner City? I can't remember the name of the band. It is like an R&B band, but everybody's free, you know. It's just really really cool. But I just love that ad. I just love it. It's really cool. All right, and loose ends. Red Ibex says clickbait. I was really looking forward to this video about my favorite R&B 80s group. Oh, Red Ibex. Oh, it wasn't actually aimed at you because you always watch anyway. But you know, I wanted to get a few extra people in there. You know. For some reason, it hasn't been deleted for false advertising. That's one good thing. All right, but yeah, there was a bit of clickbait element to that, I must admit. Right, 32. Right, where are we now? Let's go back to share screen because I have here a timestamp on loose ends from David's Splendid Isolation. If it will open, take your time. Cast list is interesting, actually. There's some quite famous people in here, like Elizabeth Marvel, who plays the nun. You see her in the old nun. You see her in the first trailer and the second. You see her in both trailers, I think. And indeed, she speaks in the first trailer. This is talking about the cast list of Disclosure Day. David said the simple reason is that British actors are so sought after and well respected that they get most of the jobs. Yeah, Americans do seem to like that. I mean, I've got an American friend who's often compliments. She often says, "I really like your accent, Ben. I think you've got a lovely accent." And this is someone who generally who's a bit of an Anglophile, and likes British people and Britain. So yeah, I think most Americans I know really like our accent. They think it's very appealing. Yeah. Loose ends, and here we have Professor Emlyn-Jones says every tie load a notifrail for common trails. What? Every time a notice for comments. Okay. Responding most announce it there. My heart trails chuckleload. Right. Every tie load a no trail for common trails. Responding most announce it there. My heart trail for chuckler. All right. I think you mean every time a notice for comments. Yeah. Announcing a response. I think that's what you mean. My heartstrings a chuckle. All right. And you got a reply here from MNO says goodbye load. All right. We have another unwinny speaker who's saying goodbye. Oh dear. Right. All right. And now we have a comment here from Professor Emlyn-Jones, of which I've actually replied in text, because Professor Emlyn-Jones says technical Nobel Spruik second, so I claim it here. Tin silver foily hat loader, please. All right, so he's claiming the second post, so he gets a silver tinfoil hat. Yes. And I said here, for some reason, why YouTube decided your last few common trails were spam loads. I've publicated them all. And Professor Emlyn-Jones says, gratifols and prostrakers there. Yes. Yeah, for some reason, yeah, YouTube decided that Professor Emlyn-Jones comments are spam. I have to regularly check the spam folder to liberate them, yeah. And here we have Professor Emlyn-Jones who says here, oh, folly. How am I doing for time? Double check time. Okay, so, Larzy Bobloader. We know who that is. Larzy Bobloader, you know. Who was the guy from Area 51 load, yeah. All strut load, chest puffage, claiming secret euphony, whisper it in the eardroves, don't tell the vicar, yes. Actual fact loaders, he's a pimp for Martian prostitutes, brothel enthusiast, poly dance ladles, with his pentaload all full up and dangly there. Hardly the same thing, right. He was. I think he ran he was put in CCTV for a brothel. I think that was his job. Because this came up when Bob Lazar actually was in court, because he did actually get a conviction for. I mean, it was actually not what you might think, because in Nevada prostitution is legal. before anyone asks when you watched Meadows, I did not indulge in that when I was there. But yeah, prostitution is legal in Nevada, and he was working for a brothel, actually putting CCTV security cameras in. Now, the issue came, apparently it wasn't the prostitution that was the problem. It was the fact this was unlicensed, or their licensing was wrong, and he ended up in court. Now, even if that were true, it doesn't necessarily mean that his Hugh Foley whisper it in the eardroves was also false. There is an element, though, that if someone's reputation is one for dishonesty, you do have to cast that as you do have to cast into that relief anything else they say. So this is why you've got to be white. You know, if you wanted people to believe you, there's no point being the little boy who cried wolf. If you have a reputation generally for being honest, people are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt when there is doubt. I think there's other reason to be suspicious of Bob Lazar. I know Stanton Friedman didn't trust him. There's all other ways as well. There's all sorts of other problems as well with his testimony. Yeah. Loose ends, Professor Emlyn-Jones. And while I'm at it, we want noisy jam loader, so kissy cuddle load, let bygones be bygones and say no more about it. And of course, for that Bocus, not yours. Yes, I do. When you say for a Bocus, I do assume you're talking about jam noises and not mine. Yes. And it's a very nice Bocus, I must say. Well, you know, I mean, I think when you fall out with someone, very often, this is the case with Nick Colostrum. Some things do require like a real life meeting, because when I met, I tried to talk to Nick online, and he was just like being really stubborn about everything. And people do these things online. I told you, didn't I, about Patrick from Vetted, about how he left me a really nasty, a really spiteful and snappy response to something I said on his Twitter, and he completely misunderstood what I was saying. And I've met Patrick. I met him at Contact in the Desert, and he seems like a likable, sensible person. But then he sort of, the moment he like snapped at me, I thought I could correct him. I could explain, look, Patrick, you misunderstood me. I meant this. I'll clarify. But people in that situation, they generally I do notice they generally kind of like just double down, or they just ignore you. Yet, you know, if I meet him face to face and say, look, Patrick, this is what I really meant, everything would be absolutely fine. If I met Jam Noise face to face, you know, I mean, I wouldn't back down. I must admit, though, and I mean, this may be why even that wouldn't work. I would not back down on the reason why we fell out. I would insist that I was in the right. As tempting as it is, because I wouldn't mind kissy cuddling loaded her, quite frankly. I've always thought that. But I would stick by my guns, and she would have to accept that, or at least agree to disagree with me. I think time will, at some point, our paths will cross, because she goes to these protests and things like that. So we'll end up hopefully meeting again. Hopefully if she's willing to speak to me, I'll speak to her. Loose ends over the moon. Just when I thought the music couldn't get any worse. Oh, that's the Black Goo. That's Sophie the Ports Poet and what they're called, Canopus Pollux. Cassini Gap, the band name, they all have different names. There's Sophie the Ports Poet, Canopus Pollux, Cassini Gap, and what's the other one? Vicky, her name is. What's her real name in the band? The Black Goo are fantastic. They got some great songs. They're the people who made the post-pro blues, you know. The M6 is backed up. The chairs are all stacked up. They've got some great songs, and a lot of them are inspired by HPANWO TV. So honestly, first it's, oh, this Unwinese is really awful, and then, oh, the music is really terrible. Goodness me, man. Honestly, man, I'd love to drag you out on a camping holiday. I really would. God, you'd be hilarious. Right, the trailer. Right, here we go. Loose ends. Oh, this is my first time I discussed the trailer, don't I? The trailer isn't just an ad; it's a product. If a studio loses control of where it's shown, they lose the ability to track engagement, earn revenue, and control the brand's first impression. But surely they do want to maximize that, don't they? They don't want to restrict it. Anyway, it goes on. Movie studios can and do file copyright claims against the unauthorized use of trailers. You assume the YouTube algorithm flagged your video, but it's most likely not the case. Universal Pictures, which distributes many of Spielberg's films, is famous for its automated content ID system. In recent years, they have been criticized by the YouTube community for striking or claiming ad revenue on videos that use even 5 seconds of a trailer for a review. Okay, well, that still makes no sense over the moon because well, all right, even assuming that they want to control distribution and want to restrict it and don't want you showing it in certain places, in case, God forbid, someone might see it and go and watch their movie and buy a ticket in the cinema and add to box office revenue, it's an open and shut case of fair use. Anyway, Professor Emlyn-Jones says under here, it's the beady most eyeball, Narty loom load, after our pridely dignified Falstaffe, which is me, with their trousery rollets to the knee clappers, chest exposy, and pentalobes all full-ollop and dangly. We hear a lot about pentalobes, full-ollops, and danglies. I think you, Narty loom load, I think, is the Illuminati, yes. The beady most eyeballed in the pyramid, yes. The beady most eyeballed. That's it, they're the ones that are doing it. All right, here we have Lucy. That was a long one from David here. How am I doing for time? Right, well, seeing this comment, I think it will go over 3 hours. In 2026, this is on loose ends, the digital landscape reached a significant turning point where human users officially became the minority. Oh, this is the dead internet theory, isn't it? Where there's so many bots online that, yeah, I've heard of this. In fact, it was actually Lance Corporal who talked to me about this when I saw him. Recent data from industry reports, such as the 2025 Fails and Imperva Bad Bot Report, indicates that approximately 51% of all internet traffic is now generated by automated bots, leaving only 49% to actual human beings. Over the moon, I'm surprised it's not more. I'm surprised it's not like 60, 65% internet traffic by automated bots. This shift explains why views on YouTube and other platforms typically spike immediately after an upload and then flatline or drop shortly after. Drop? I mean, in terms of rate, in terms of like click-through rate and search results and things like that. You don't mean that the figures actually go down, do you? Because you to do that, you'd have to be a conspiracy theorist. I think what you mean is simply like is what you said. It's the search rate, click-through rate, that goes down. Yeah. A large portion of that initial search is driven by bots, including such indexes, AI scrappers, and automated view inflation tools rather than real viewers. Okay, I don't use one of those tools. I know users who do, and apparently YouTube actually don't like them, and they'll delete a video if you try to use them. Because these bots do not actually watch the content, they often engage for only a few seconds. This is why creators' average view duration might seem unusually low. The bots are not there to consume the video, only to ping the server. If you notice a view count drop, for example, from 500 on Friday to 300 on Saturday morning, it's not because the platform is being sneaky or trying to suppress the content. It's a result of an active audit. What? Oh, I see. So they can revise these views. YouTube has a duty to its paying advertisers to provide viewing figures that are as accurate as possible. Imagine being an advertising executive paying for a channel that claims to get 1 million views, only to find out when it reaches less than half that audience. To prevent this kind of multi-billion-dollar fraud, YouTube invests heavily in security. So are you actually saying that they will review the kind of viewers you got and just kick a few if they are obviously bots? Is that what you're saying? Right. I didn't know that. The systems now use advanced behavioral AI to verify human behavior. They look for specific mouse movements, varied watch times, and hardware signatures. If a script, even one written easily by an AI like ChatGPT or Grok, is run from a single IP address or a single device, YouTube's system flags it as non-human. Once the audit is complete, the platform deletes any views confirmed to be automated. The bottom line is that most raw view counts are artificially inflated by bots. In reality, a creator likely has far fewer human viewers. than the initial numbers suggest. Without these checks and balances, every video would have massive but fake numbers. YouTube must delete the bots to ensure that the brands funding the site are paying for genuine human engagement. Is that true? Because that obviously would be an argument that I'm being paranoid about my shadow banning. But at the same time, see, I didn't know all that, and I don't disbelieve you. But at the same time, David, Over the Moon. At the same time, why did my viewing figures drop literally by 2/3 overnight in March of 2018? Why do other people who make like videos about completely like meaningless or uninteresting things, standard things, get more views than me, and they don't have this problem? You see, there's other reasons for being suspicious. There's also the fact that the government have literally said they want to eliminate misinformation, and then so they specifically say they want to reduce people's access to inaccurate information and prioritize verifiable sources and approved sources. And you think that they wouldn't actually introduce some kind of function to their platform that would actually achieve this? And indeed, Professor Unwin says here, absolute rubbish. That's Steve Mumbling speaking in Unwinese. No Botley robe loaders here. Oh no. Cogley Springload and Wheezy Most Technolopers. Error. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Open the Podload Bay doors, Lees. Hallis. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, how am I doing now? Next one. Over the Moon. On Raza Vihari on Apollo, UFOs and Tesla. All right, it's an interview I did with Raza Vihari, one of the Apollo detectives. Fancy some yoga lessons? Contact Raza Vihari. I won't dox him. He's been teaching yoga in China for 16 years. Right, I don't particularly. I don't mind yoga. I mean, I'm interested in like all these weird stuff. I've just come back from Glastonbury, actually. Yeah, that's a spoiler for the upcoming video. There's all these kinds of things everywhere in Glastonbury. But I don't particularly. I'm not. It's like astrology, I keep an open mind about it, but I'm not like mad on it, and I'm not official about it. You know what I mean? And Over the Moon actually replies to his own comment here. The doctor, quote unquote, which one, Tom Baker, went to great lengths to hide his true identity and vocation. For years, he has moved from one conspiracy trend to another. Free energy, the moon landing hoax, and so on. Well, that's just two he already talks about. Okay. Always claiming to be an authority by inventing Walter Mitty-style fantasies. He claims to work for the Chinese Space Agency and the Chinese government building free energy power plants. But it's all nonsense. In reality, he teaches yoga. That's his actual job. Okay, well, that's like saying, well, I talk nonsense about the moon landings because I'm a hospital porter. Well, he's allowed to have a day job, mate. Come on. It doesn't mean he's talking nonsense just because he's got a day job. Most people have a day job. We can't all be Stephen Greer. While he possesses some impressive sounding qualifications, they originated from a diploma mill. You only have to listen to the man to know he's full of it. But the first definitive proof I found was a website he established called 0 Point Energy. Alarm bells began ringing when I checked his product page. All the products he claimed as his own were actually manufactured by BMW, Suzuki, and Hummer, etc. Some even had the original manufacturer's logo visible if you look close enough. Google reverse image searches confirmed the true makers of every item. Soon after I started posting my findings on forums in the YouTube comment sections, the products page went missing, followed shortly by the entire website. It has taken a significant amount of time to uncover his true identity, but as of the last night, I finally did. Right. Is it on your channel, Over the Moon? Because honestly, you can like post exposés. Here's Over the Moon's channel. Let's have a look. Feel free to post exposés. We've got here special upload for the Queen of Spam, Professor Poppycock. This is 8 hours ago. 6 months ago. I've actually watched this. This is Elon Musk and Stasia, and I watched this one. John Hutchison he says court faking is Hutchison effect. That's actually not true. And the Artemis update again. All right, and there's a 3. Okay, well, feel free to post it on there if you want. I mean, I don't mind. All opinions, are welcome. If they're true, they're true. If they're false, they're false. But, you know, even if you want to say something or say something critical about someone I've like interviewed, fine with me. But if you exposed it last night, I assume you may be still working on the edit. Okay, and we have here on loose ends, we have Over the Moon saying here. The reason you haven't heard of Brian Tyler Cohen, there's an asterisk by his name, Brian Tyler Cohen, is because you mostly seem to stay in your bubble, mate. I know you might not agree, but it's an example of how right-wing most media is. I get right-wing stuff pushed into my feed constantly with people who have under 5k subs. They'll cry about social media pushing left-wing narratives, etc. But the reality is most big money is being pushed towards furthering right-wing goals because that's just the nature of leaning right. Okay, you know, I mean right-wing, like in what sense? Because you know, corporations will try to push an idea that they think might gain money, and indeed some of the official ones do. But I mean, is there anything in your feed, for example, about Richard D. Hall or, you know, David Hughes or Andrew Johnson? Are they there? You won't find those in your social media feed, yeah. And that's why I always laugh when you bring up the idea of left-wing fascism. Why? Because we've been through this. Hang on. I know you'll probably say something about communism or socialism and trying to relate back to events in history, but the mistake people make is when they do is they're basically attracting those labels without actually going into the details. Go listen to people describing communism or socialism. The details never matched up with historical events. It's always a mixed bag. Yeah. Well, you get like people who are very pro saying it was wonderful and people who are very anti saying it was awful. You know, Ayn Rand will portray Russia under the Bolsheviks very differently to how China Miéville will, because one is very anti and the other is very pro that particular movement. Some socialism, some communism, some still monetary control, class structures, still political power. Even now in countries like the USA, you could make a good argument that it's socialism for the rich and capitalism for everyone else due to how big corporations get bailouts while the average citizen will lose their house and healthcare. Do you think I'm in favor of that just because I think Rupert Lowe is okay? I'm not. You know, I mean, people say that it was what Kevin Logan's friend, was it? I forgot its name. No Justice MTG said, what was it? Yeah, conservatism is the political wing of psychopathy or sociopathy. I think was very unfair. Or how in the UK we have basically free healthcare for everyone. I know I was inside. I was in it. I was one of the providers of that. But good luck if you want a house call on your own, as such a simple thing is financially out of reach for many. Well, yeah, that's the failing of the NHS. Yeah. And I don't support that. I think it should. I believe in a properly funded NHS. I think he made a quote about Russia taking a pencil. Oh right, okay, apparently that was that. A lot of people said that actually wasn't true. It's an urban myth. A pencil instead of the new space pen, yeah. Whereas USA spent a fortune on it. People often use this to highlight communism versus capitalism. Well, it actually, if it's true, then it makes out that communism is more sensible than capitalism, doesn't it? Because this was in the Soviet Union. So if I'm anti, you know, if you're trying to make the point that I just think I say everything about communism is bad, I wouldn't give you this pencil pen example, would I? Because in this case, it's an example of the Soviet Union outdoing the capitalist West. Indeed, they did many times. They got the first rocket into space. They got the first man into space. They got the first woman into space. They got nearly all the firsts until Apollo. If it hadn't been for Apollo, it would be a slam dunk for the USSR. As it was, Apollo allowed the US back into the game. The US became competitive once again with the Soviet Union in the space race. Humans didn't evolve due to money. Similarly, the world doesn't require money or politics or science to invent new technology or get science done to invent new technology. All is done is paywall resources that prevents progress. I don't understand that bit. Any system that involves money, trade, or barter will have incentives that hold things back and incentivize wealth accumulation. Don't fall for labeling something an ism. Go after the details. They are like conspiracies in plain sight, Ben. Right, I don't actually disagree with that. I mean, I've often said, I'm the one who's often said that the abolition of the slave trade was the incentive for the Industrial Revolution. It wasn't. I mean, I know other people said that we would have an industrial revolution in the second century BC if Archimedes had lived. But actually, we wouldn't. Despite the fact that Archimedes was an inventor of amazing technology and science, he was killed when the Romans tried to capture him, actually. The fact that the political system still was based on slavery wouldn't have actually incentivized through economic forces the use of adopting new technology. It just wouldn't have been worth it because the cost of labor was too low. This is why we're reintroducing slavery now with things like workfare, because the cost of labor has dropped so much. So I don't actually disagree with that. I don't actually disagree with what you said, and I don't think I'm right-wing as such. And you would say otherwise because I speak out against anti-whiteism and things like that, and I think Rupert Lowe is cool. I'd probably vote for him. Although I didn't actually vote Reform at the last election. I voted for the Independent Oxford Alliance, which is actually a kind of centrist libertarian party. So I don't think I'm right-wing, actually. In some ways, I'm left-wing. I'm pro-NHS. I'm against like slave labor. I believe in living wages and things like that. Disclosure Day trailer, Professor Emlyn-Jones says here. Let's see, we are going to go over 3 hours, it looks like. Oh, I'm not going to rush this one because it's coming up to 8 p.m. Oh dear, Trumply Donalode, reveal it there. Well, he might do. This is the beginning ND Tylode, where it all goes great tumblings of whoops bangy and verlollopt for Corbly Jeremole and his spruikly beals. I'm not sure how Jeremy Corbyn is involved in this, actually, Professor Emlyn-Jones, but is it the beginning of the end times? At the end of it's certainly, I think it's the beginning of the end of the truth embargo, yeah. Or maybe we've gone beyond the beginning. Here we go. President Trump loader, strut load, chest puffage to the podiummost and announced it. After a bigly investigale, no stone unturney, checkly box present and correctors there. I can announce it's all absolute rubbish. Oh, well, firstly, I don't think that's me speaking. I don't think Trump would speak on release. And I don't think he wouldn't actually call a press conference to do that. He'd just get Caroline Leavitt to do it like he did before. Leave it to Caroline, as the joke goes. It was actually her first ever just after the inauguration, her first ever press conference. She begins by saying, oh, those drones, they're just drones. And no, said, no, they're not. That's rubbish. Aliens, Andy and Aliens live stream. What's happening now? Is everything all right? Can you? Oh, I think I'm okay. All right. All right. We're nearly at the end of hour number 4. Neil Peel says, hour number 3. Yeah. I missed this live, Ben, as I've been out with my son and daughter in Edinburgh. Hope it went well. It did. Thanks, Neil. I'm sorry you missed it live, but obviously spending time with your kids when they live as far away from you as they do, which is basically the other end of the country or the other end of Britain. I absolutely, you need to spend more time with them. It went very well, actually. Yeah, cool. Hatchie says on Andy and Aliens live stream, hi, Ben. Charles II put the ravens in the tower. It's looking like Charles III will set them free. How are you, buddy? I'm fine, thanks, Hatchie. Yeah, it's always said if the ravens ever leave the Tower of London, the nation will fall. Now, that's interesting that Charles, I mean, I don't think no one's forced, I don't think, are the ravens forced to stay there? I don't think the ravens are forced to stay there. I think they live there because people feed them and things like that. You know, like a lot of animals do that. They're not necessarily imprisoned, but they just hang around willfully. It's like Fungi the dolphin in Dingle Bay in Ireland. He's been there for years now, and the reason is because people chuck fish to him. I mean, he'd swim off into the Atlantic and find somewhere else if he wasn't being regularly fed. But he knows a good deal when he sees one, which is why he hangs around Dingle Bay. If the ravens leave, then it'll be of their own accord. I don't think you actually have to free them. They're not in cages. They fly quite openly around the grounds of the tower. The Blackwatch, the guards, they look after them and things like that. Yeah, and the beefeaters and people like that, they feed them. Andy in the Aliens live stream. Good stream, Ben. Thanks, DJ. I missed it due to the pull of the land of Nod. In other words, sleep. Day-night cycle is out of balance. Oh dear, mate. Well, I'll tell you what. I would do them earlier in the day, but you see, if I do them at 7 o'clock, it means that Green Tea and David Schultz and people like that can't tune in live because they're in the US. Well, that's by the way. I'm watching the Crafty Nihilist live stream soon. I think it's 8 p.m. they start. Andy and Aliens. Steve Mumbling says, we keep hearing about this overwhelming evidence of ET's coming here, but no one ever presents any of it. Funny that. The truth is, there isn't a scrap of tangible evidence to support even one of these fanciful ET yarns. Well, Steve, as you know, everything you said there, I disagree with, and I explained why many times. Over the Moon says here on Andy's and Alien live stream, Andy and Aliens live stream, a collaboration between Rhiannon and Professor Poppycock as a theme tune isn't exactly what this channel needs. We can have a Muzak where the vocals or the music are all 100% AI generated, meeting his 100% AI unwinny's gobbledygook for the lyrics. It's a match made in heaven. I like the lyrics that Rhiannon has actually provided already, but it'll be a nice novelty piece I could put in just once, Justice he must be done for Richley Hall loader, yeah. And Professor Emlyn-Jones says, Sockley, stuff it in the fizzgog. Right, I think I know. I don't know what those words literally means, but I think I get your point, Professor. And we have Stephen Garrity, who says here, watch Trump. He was never going to talk about aliens. But you know what? I actually didn't watch the State of the Union, partly because it's in the middle of the night. And secondly, if he mentions it, it'll be in the highlights reel the next day, which it wasn't. So I assume he didn't. Jolly Jones, that's a good name, says, doesn't he hate illegal aliens? So if they ever do visit, he'll build a sky dome to keep them out. Right. Is there an extraterrestrial equivalent in the Space Force of ICE? Are they actually going to be dragging the aliens out there, flying saucers in orbit and putting them into rockets and shooting them back to Zeta Reticuli? If one of these aliens drives at one of the agents, is he going to open fire with his ray gun through the windscreen and kill one of the aliens? I don't know. Right, Jolly Jones says, why don't you use Brave as it blocks ads automatically? I never get ads on here or Rumble when I use it. That came up earlier in the program, Jolly. Because if you do that, then YouTube will start they'll just start increasing the premium range, and the free package will just start declining and declining and declining, and then trying to force people onto premium. They'll start putting more ads on the free package, on the free service. And eventually, it might even go full premium completely, which would then be things like that. Yeah, which should be bad. That's why I won't use an ad blocker. I'm afraid I just have to put up with them and moan like I do. And freedom for life always. Now, this is someone I think I met on Thursday night. Now, this is coming up in the next video. She might even be in the video. If it is who I think it is, let's have a look. Oh, no channel. It's just like a commenting channel. Okay. But I met someone who, and if it's who I think I am, she says, hope you found a room tonight, lovely. Oh. And I said, hi, were you in Pentarch yesterday? Yes, I did, thanks. It'll all come up in the video. But thank you very much for that comment. And 21 hours ago, Andy and Aliens live stream says, justice. Oh, yes. Princely Andriel, or I think it's called Andriel Mountbatley Windsorlode, is to give his proper name, with the Bailey chainage on the Bawley chainage on the ankleode. Bunkley most with big hairy bubba. All give it deep joy in the pentalobe and philolopit up the keyballs. And it couldn't happen to a nicer bloke, the more deserving bloke, definitely. Maybe he can get a taste of what these young girls have been suffering, yeah. Oh, we now got a long comment. Arts Channel says, Artemis 3 is cancelled, is it? Artemis 3 is cancelled. That's the one coming up. This is actually the manned moon landing. Is it cancelled? What? Surely not. Let's have a look. Hang on, let's have a look at this. Let's just go and take more details. Okay, I'm going to ask Google AI. Is Artemis 3 cancelled? Because I don't believe this. Not after everything they've done so far. They're not going to cancel it, surely. No, Artemis 3 has not been cancelled, but its mission profile has been fundamentally changed. As of February 27, 2026, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman announced that Artemis 3 will no longer attempt a lunar landing. Instead, it's been redesigned as a high-stakes test mission in low Earth orbit. Mission goal. Originally intended to be the first manned lunar landing since 1972, it will now focus on testing docking maneuvers between the Orion spacecraft and one or both commercial lunar landers. How am I doing for time? Right, I've gone slightly over. All right, I'm going to just. Okay, I've gone over time. Don't worry, I'll just change the. I will just change the tag now. I'm not going to stop it and restart now. Yeah, it says here it's going to be. It's going to use one or both commercial lunar landers, SpaceX, Starship, Blue Origin, Blue Moon in Earth orbit. And it's now targeted for launch date in mid-2027. New landing timeline. All right. The actual first lunar landing has been shifted to the Artemis 4 mission, which is now scheduled for 2028. NASA also hopes to attempt a second landing with Artemis 5 later that same year. The reasons for the change. Okay. Well, I think this is going to be discussed in the thread. All right, but right, that's would you believe me if I said I was disappointed about that? I don't know if you would, probably not, but I actually am disappointed that that's the case. We'll just change that there. And indeed, there's a long thread here because Over the Moon says to Art's channel, more BS from you. Artemis mission profile change. Yeah, as we just said. And Art's channel said more excuses. Well, you know, Art's channel, I'm actually wondering, you know, I mean, there's reasons for this. I know they're stating reasons, but I think this is going to disappoint a lot of people. Over the Moon says, adding more missions, launching every 3 months instead of every 3 years, and landing on the moon twice in 2028 is not making excuses. You should stop getting your news updates from IRINN. Well, get them from HPANWO TV. Art's channel, 53 years of excuses. Over the Moon. You just can't help yourself, can you? Update. All right, Over the Moon's got an update here. What's this? Let's have a look at this. What's this saying? I get you. Yeah, Artemis 20 update. I'm not going to click. Do you mind if I don't click these links Over the Moon because they're probably just more of that. Art's channel said manned landings will not happen because they can't do it. And Over the Moon says they already have 6 times. Okay, well, I disagree with Over the Moon there. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't believe that moon landings are impossible. I personally believe moon landings are possible, and they've probably happened already, and probably happened before Apollo. I'm guessing they may have happened as long ago as the 1940s, when the first anti-gravity spacecraft were designed by the Nazi Bell, etc. Maybe there was someone else doing it. I don't believe Apollo went to the moon. I do believe it's possible that Apollo, you know, the Artemis missions may well succeed in landing someone on the moon. Whether they'll do it using the technology they say they're using it for, I'm not so sure. But I believe it will happen. I believe it will happen. You will see astronauts on the moon, I think, at some point. Okay, right. Okay, so that's the end of that. Now, what I'm going to do is we got to the end of the comments section, so we're nearly finished with this video now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look through. I'm now going to have a look at the. I'm now going to have a quick look at the notifications. This is the general YouTube notifications that have actually emerged while I was actually making this video. So let's see what we have here. Let's have a look. So we have Red Ibex here saying on loose ends. Did you see the viral picture of Prince Andrew? His eye looked like the glowing red of the Terminator eye. Do you think he was taken away and replaced by a robot? I don't. I think this is simply a red eye feature of flash photography. But I did find it very interesting that he looked particularly reptilian in that picture, at least on the back seat of the car, going. Yes. So yeah, I did think that was somehow appropriate, even if it wasn't literal. Oh, this is an old one. What's this one? God, this is the Lapis Conference 2025. And he says here, Oh, this, I know what this is. There's a timestamp here, but it says it's a common misconception when people say the Earth simulation theory only came about with the rise of computers. It actually goes into antiquity. All right, I know I don't have to click the timestamp because I know what you're talking about here, and you're absolutely right. The idea of the simulation theory actually is one of the oldest ideas in the world, and before computers were invented, people used different metaphors. The best known is Plato and his cave, that the universe is shadows on the wall of the cave. That's well over 2,000 years old, this idea. And my idea, there may well be some truth behind it. Yeah. All right, so there's another timestamp here, which I will do actually. I will click because I'm not sure exactly what Red Ibex is talking about, but let's have a watch of this. This is Lapis conference again.
Be executed. I'd like it to be quick and painless if possible. You know, there's this legend of the living heads. You know, when Mary Queen of Scots was actually beheaded, apparently her eyes open and she's tried to speak. Her severed head actually formed the words, although it couldn't speak, obviously. And it was actually a minute or more before her eyes finally closed and she died. Funnily enough, this is an aspect of Wolfen, the novel by Whitley Strieber.
Yeah. Would I do a video about that? This is about the idea that if you're executed by guillotine, you actually don't die instantly. So in other words, your head remains animated for a certain amount of time afterwards. I'm doing an entire video about that. If I'm in the mood, if I'm in a particular ghoulish mood, I mean, it's a bit grim, isn't it? I mean, I was horrified when I first heard about this. It was like, oh my God. But, you know, maybe if you guys want me to talk about it, it sounds pretty horrible. But I mean, I know a lot of doctors say it's not possible. That it's not possible, that things. And someone said, reply to comment added twice. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah. And here's a third one. This is Red Ibex again on 1, 2, 3. So there you go. There's another one there. Yeah. Is that it? Is that all of it? Oh, right. Now we have here. This is on Bases. Which Bases conference was this? Oh, Secret Space Disclosure Bases 2025 conference. This was a good one. This was. And Red Ibex says correctly, this was a hugely ambitious Miles Johnston conference. A 3-day bender. Yes, it was. It really was. Oh, it's the best. It's one of the best that Miles has ever done. I loved it. I absolutely adored it. Let's just do one refresh and see if anything else comes up in the notification. If not, then I'll consider that the end of the video. Let's have a look. That's nothing. Okay, right. Well, that is the end of this particular. After more than it's a long one. Yeah, 4 hours. What am I on now? This is the end. This is just over 3 hours. But because like I said, this is the first one in like almost a month, and so I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has left a comment. They've been brilliant. There's been some good ones. I'm sure some are better than others. Obviously, some agree with me, some disagree with me, some are very appreciative of me, some are very critical of me. But in terms of the content for this particular project, all of them are equally valuable. So thank you, each and every one of you who's left me one. I very, very much appreciate it. So, now if you're watching this, you are watching the YouTube version of this particular video. That's a reply to comments 124. Now there is an alt tech annex. Now if you're watching this on alt tech, please do go to the channel page and look for the actual alt tech annex, which you will only be able to watch on that particular platform, or on the alt tech platforms, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble. That particular video will not appear on YouTube. It's way too hot for YouTube. And indeed, despite everything, even if YouTube's changed, I have not. My attitude to YouTube has not changed. So please do check that out. And so other things are coming up. Obviously, the Penta reportage, it's in the can, and it is currently in post-production, as they say. That sounds so pretentious, doesn't it? But it's true. And that will be coming up within the next few days. So thank you, everyone, all of you, for watching HPANWO TV. It's much appreciated. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.
Conspiracies, government cover-ups, Earth mysteries, monster cryptids, psyops, saucers and black triangles, HPANWO.